music.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it. Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind? That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It is like being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan will cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when he runs so close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it. Those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
When we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
Oh, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. Sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there. Out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes. Every gear change, every corner. Perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, then I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do. It's passion, love, which is why we're prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Happy New Year, everybody. Hello and welcome back to the Retro Racing Managers League on Downforce Racing, brought to you by GoBobby.uk. I'm Jake Sanson, and we continue with the 1990 Formula One season, the Grand Prix 2 World Championship, using Jeff Crammond's legendary Microprose title, Grand Prix 2. We continue with our 1990 schedule as we head to the Mexican Grand Prix. We've had 5 different winners now from the first 5 races in a very crazy and hectic start to the Virtual Racing Managers League Motorsport season. It has been absolutely phenomenal thus far, and we are continuing with this mega season. We come to Mexico, one of the shortest circuits on the calendar, but certainly one of the fastest. We should see plenty of overtaking moves, and we already saw quite a few of those in Canada. And we've had 5 different winners, as we've mentioned. Gerhard Berger at the US Grand Prix at Phoenix, Nelson Piquet for Benetton in Brazil, Mika Hakkinen winning his first ever Grand Prix at San Marino in Imola for Brabham. Ayrton Senna got the job done at Monaco for the 3rd time in his career for McLaren, and then last time out he nearly had 2 in a row, but in the final corner he collapsed to a standstill with the engine gone, and Jean Alesi took the victory, and the Red Bull Tyrrell team taking their first win since 1983. We continue on with some great news from the world of the F1 Racing Managers League. Some quick shout outs there to our suppliers and our partners here at Downforce Racing, while we bring you up to date with the latest news bulletins. Obviously, with the upcoming season for 1990 already starting to get interesting, and obviously there are some interesting developments in the world of motorsport around us here in the Grand Prix 2 World Championship. Alain Prost has recently hinted he's only prepared to wait until the French Grand Prix for Ferrari's fortunes to improve before he seeks further options. Rumours suggest he may even seek solace in Peugeot's new Group C project, which is set to debut later this year. Porsche have made a strong suggestion that they are seeking a German talent to lead the team in the near future, following their unexpected pace with the likes of Paul Warwick and Alain Menu. The board of directors are reportedly keen to find a star worthy of captaining their efforts. Rumours are rife that young Michael Schumacher, who's only 20 years old, has become a target for their future endeavours. Subaru and Isuzu are set to become engine suppliers in 1991. After the latter will kickstart a new project, and Subaru continues to develop its underpowered engine, which was rejected by Coloni at the start of the 1990 campaign in favour of Ferrari power supply. The Birmingham Super Prix is being touted as a potential 17th venue for the Formula One circus next year, 1991, as a proposed return for the European Grand Prix. There is going to be a non-championship race before the Italian Grand Prix, and that will act as a provisional testbed for the concept. It will be the first non-championship Grand Prix event since 1983. Lamborghini have been strongly rumoured as entrants for Formula One racing in 1991, potentially following the likes of BMW and Porsche into the sport. Porsche are obviously already there. BMW have recently made a statement that they will join the grid in 1991. But in conjunction with Mexican Project Glass, the Lamborghini squad could well join the pre-qualifying grid as a semi-factory effort, and Ferrari test driver Giovanni Aloi is strongly hinted as a lead candidate for the team. And finally, Ayrton Senna has been seen in discussion with various teams at a private F1 test day at Silverstone, in communication with Williams, with Lotus, and even at Tyrrell, after he lost an almost certain win for McLaren at Montreal. Elsewhere, Nelson Piquet has apparently been seen in discussion with his former employers Brabham, and Nigel Mansell has been seen chatting away with the likes of Williams and McLaren. Interesting how the rumour mill starts with these conversations. I'm sure there's nothing particularly leading or confirmed about those particular conversations. However, you never know in the world of Grand Prix racing. We're going to start our coverage of the Grand Prix of Mexico, of course, with the pre-qualifying race, which starts things off. 35 laps, which is half distance, and of course the first three teams that cross the finish line are the teams that get into the Grand Prix, as always. I'll be joined in the commentary box very soon, hopefully, by Tom Cairns, who's going to be joining me alongside for the race coverage today. And it's going to be fascinating to see how the race develops. But we've got a front row of the grid all sorted for the Minardi team. Martin Brundle and Pierluigi Martini will go off the front row of the grid. Johnny Herbert in the Dallara and Alessandro Zanardi in the Lego Osella will be in fourth place. Mark Blundell is P5 on the grid alongside Bruno Giacomelli. Then Damon Hill and Aguri Suzuki come next up. Paul Warwick in the Porsche lines up alongside Michael Schumacher in the Reynard. Eddie Irvine makes his debut as he takes over the second seat at Real, and then Ukyo Katayama joins up alongside him. Willie T. Ribbs has been out-qualified by his new teammate, the young upstart Irvine, so he wants to make an impression alongside Ratzenberger on the grid. JJ Leto is alongside Eric Bernard, who returns to the Grand Prix fold. He started the season at Lola, he is now in at Monteverde. Yannick Dalmas for AGS, Alain Menu for Porsche, Tarquini in the second AGS, and Joachim Winkelhock in the Zakspeed. Then it's Alan McNish in the Life alongside Juan Fangio the second, Piercarlo Ghinzani, Kathy Muller, Christian Fittipaldi and Coloni's Mike Thackwell round out the grid. So we're getting ourselves firmly ready for the action, and very excited indeed to see what will happen next as the competitors come to the starting grid. It's Brundle and Martini on the front row of the grid, and we are ready for the action. It's going to be a great start from the grid, I'm sure, as the cars are ready to get underway. Green light, and we are away and racing, and it's an absolutely mega start. Brundle leads the field away. Is there going to be some carnage into the first corner? Certainly Brundle and Martini are away well. Giacomelli gets a good start. Suzuki's drawing alongside Johnny Herbert as they come up to the first corner, and it's a long haul down to the first corner, of course, here in Mexico, so there could be some big moves into the first turn as everybody tries to come through without too much incident. Up the inside, that's a fast-moving Martini as he tries to keep in front of Goody Suzuki. Brundle has maintained the lead in the Minardi, so a great start there from the Englishman as the two yellow, black and white Minardis have continued on in the lead of the race. Brundle, Martini, Suzuki, Giacomelli, Hill, Herbert, Zanardi, Schumacher, Blundell, Warwick and Katayama, and they have started in good stead at the early part of the race. So it's a 1-2 still for Minardi. The Lolas are third and fourth. And then we have Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert in the Dallaras. It's 2x2 hurrah at the front end of the field thus far. The Lego Osellas are 7th and 8th. They're 7th and 9th because Michael Schumacher has split them in the Reynard. A perfectly clean start by the look of it. I don't think anybody's got any major causes for concern. We're looking to see if there's any damage through the field. I think it was a fairly simple start, actually, as the field worked their way around. But Martin Brundle leads the race, and it's a perfectly good start for the Minardis. Now they're going to swap positions. Martini's going to go into the Peralta. Oh dear. Very nearly a little scrub between the two there as they came out of the final turn. But you do get the impression that these two are not just going to run at the front. They're going to race for this position. So it's going to be a fabulous battle. And the straight, Martini trying to come through. Absolutely fantastic run for the competitors as they run through. Had a slight issue with the sound there. I do apologise for that, but Martini runs in the lead of the race now, having got past Brundle. Here's Zanardi. Zanardi making his way onto the back of Johnny Herbert. And as they come through, it's going to be a fascinating start to proceedings again for these two teams. As the Acela tries to come up the inside, Zanardi makes his bid for the inside line. There's not a lot of room to get through, and he has to bail out of that one. But now we're getting some great overtaking moves as we thought we'd see here in Mexico. It's a very popular venue. And we've got Katayama in the pit lane for some kind of problem. Not entirely sure what it was. We'll have to see if it was damage related. I think it was. So Katayama in the Coloni way down the order now. Brundle chasing teammate Martini. And then we've got Suzuki in front of Damon Hill. So Aguri Suzuki going well in the Lola. Here's Johnny Herbert trying to attack Giacomelli and defend from Zanardi at the same time. Michael Schumacher's got Blundell and Paul Warwick in the Porsche very close in behind. So round the final hairpin, a lot of drivers going for that big, bold move out of the final corner as Martini gets a new fastest lap in, trying to get away from teammate Brundle. And side by side, that's Giacomelli and Herbert. Herbert's going to try and make his bid on the inside line. This could be a fascinating bid up the inside as we ride on board now with Zanardi in the Acela trying to make his bid around the outside of Herbert in the hope that he can move up a position. He has to bail out of it, and Blundell's made a good move up the inside of Schumacher as well. So Schumacher's down to P9th in front of Warwick in the Porsche and Eddie Irvine in the Real Honda. So a good start there for the youngsters in the field as the battle continues on the way. Oh, that's Ginzani making a big mistake. And that's dropped him, I think, down to the back of the field, bar Katayama. So Ginzani now down to 25th. He lets both of the Eurobruns through. So Martini running well at the front end of the field. And that's Thackwell getting a move up the inside of the AGS there. So unfortunately, that is at the expense of Dalmas. So Thackwell getting a good start. And the battles continue in the midfield. Already a very epic start to proceedings in the middle of the pack. But we're on lap 3 of 35, and these laps will go quickly because the qualifying pace was only about 1 minute 9 for the pre-qualifying field. We're expecting about 1 minute 6s, 1 minute 7s for the Grand Prix field as Warwick has a try on the inside there of Michael Schumacher and bails out of it. And now Johnny Herbert having a go on the inside of Giacomelli as Zanardi was trying to make his own move. And it looks like the Minardis are going to swap again as Brundle comes up the inside and retakes the lead from Martini. So the battle continues. Katayama seems to have some kind of difficulty there, but Brundle leads the race as Zanardi takes over from Giacomelli. So Zanardi's got past Bruno Giacomelli, overtaking galore, and it's definitely the kind of race we were hoping to see in pre-qualifying. Don't forget, the rules are very clear. The first 3 teams across the finish line will progress through to the Grand Prix. So Brundle leads the way here in Mexico in the pre-qualifying race. Alain Menu in the Porsche coming through behind Ratzenberger in the Reynard. So far so good as all 26 cars are still circulating, but now that I've made the point, surely one of them is going to pull off the road. But the battle is definitely raging up front between the two Minardi drivers, Brundle and Martini. And now it's Brundle's turn to run at the front. Martini in second from Suzuki, Hill, Herbert, Zanardi, Giacomelli, Blundell and Schumacher as we ride on board with Martini. Now, what are the strategies going to be like between these two cars? That's going to be an interesting point because we have Martini chasing down Brundle. Brundle was a lot quicker on that lap, but Brundle's actually got a heavier car by about 4 laps. So this could get interesting. There's a good couple of battles taking on behind as Suzuki is pulling away from Damon Hill, but the battle for 5th place is raging as Herbert is about to lose out here to Zanardi. Zanardi comes through in the Osella. Herbert round the outside, and we've lost Mike Thackwell. Thackwell's had a problem in the Coloni. Well, there we go then. I said it was a perfect race up until that point for reliability, and then I've jinxed it. Mike Thackwell in the Coloni pulls off the circuit. And that is definitely not good news from his point of view. The New Zealander was hoping for a lot more from this race. There's been a lot of questions recently about his motivation and about his future within Grand Prix racing. Let's not forget that this is about 7 years since his last outing in a Grand Prix car before this year, but as one of the prime members of the Marlborough Driver Academy, they decided to give him a go in the car again this year over at Coloni. So there was the potential that he could get himself back up to speed, but it hasn't quite happened yet. Now, alongside me in the commentary box, we have Will Knight, who has joined in. Will, it's great to see you. It's been an interesting start, very competitive up at the front end of the field.
Yeah, certainly. I know the fact that the the team boss of Minardi, Michael Gillespie, is certainly a bit on edge with his drivers going like that down the main straight. But all in all, it's been a fantastic start to the race. Realistically, we're looking forward to an interesting one to come.
So with the battle being as strong as it is, it's very unpredictable to know who's actually going to have the upper hand here. The Minardis have definitely stretched away, but we've seen a lot of overtaking already, Will, so it's not really a guarantee as to which of the three teams up front are going to remain there, and we know that attrition is high, so it's going to be a long race to try and sort out who's going to be at the finish.
Well, realistically, that main straight, all the drivers are topping out, hopefully, in terms of their engine power. So reliability, especially around this Mexico circuit with its high altitude, is going to be relatively difficult to control for a lot of the teams.
There's Suzuki running in third place. Here comes Menu, having a look at Ratzenberger on the inside. He can't quite get through. Good defending from the Austrian as he hangs on to that place. They've got two very inexperienced drivers who have been stars in Formula Ford and Formula 3 over the last few years over there at Renault, at Reynard with the Renault engines. I wonder whose decision that was, Will Knight.
Well, I was speaking to Roland just before the race, actually. I know he was quite worried about the middle sector. He wasn't finding the correct grip with the car in terms of how it was performing, but we managed to sort that out in practice, and hopefully we'll be able to push away from India.
Well, they're definitely starting to get the hang of it. This is the new man in the sport. Eddie Irvine making his first attempt to qualify for a Grand Prix, and he's battling out with Michael Schumacher. Side by side. Oh! He almost shut the door there on Paul Warwick. That could have got very nasty indeed, but they're having a nice little tussle as Michael Schumacher desperately tries to shut the door on Irvine. Warwick in the Porsche's got a chance up the inside, and he'll take it. Thanks very much indeed. Nice move from Paul Warwick.
Fantastic move from Paul Warwick up the inside of Eddie Irvine. I think Irvine just, in his push to overtake Schumacher, got a bit clumsy in the exit of the corner and really slammed the door on the Porsche. So the fact that Warwick managed to get through is just a presentation of his excellent driving skill, really.
And now we've got a similar battle with the sister drivers in the teams. We've got Menu, Ratzenberger and Ribbs having a pretty awesome battle there as well. So it does seem as though the midfield in this race is populated by those three teams. You've got Porsche, Reynard and Real very much snapping at each other. Oh, that's Damon Hill. Damon Hill in trouble then, unfortunately, in the BMS Dallara. A brake problem has brought his race to a standstill. So Damon Hill pulls the Dallara off just in the nick of time for the Porsche to come through. So I'm afraid Damon Hill is out, and that's one car down for Dallara.
He's had such an unlucky start to this season, and throughout the season he's been having issues. We know that Damon has the pace of his father and can live up to that expectation, but the car realistically just hasn't been under him in terms of the reliability. He's been performing, but it hasn't been there. As Paul Warwick goes down the inside of Michael Schumacher, Schumacher's going to try and hang on, but he's just unable to keep it up the inside of the Porsche car as we head through that first couple of chicanes.
Well, we know that Porsche have had a massive overhaul coming to Mexico. They knew that they were obviously fast, but they wanted to be reliable, so they've done a lot of work recently to make it work. They've had a bit of a cash injection from the HQ, and Porsche are trying to make it work again, but these guys have got the experience behind them to make it count. Minardi have been in the sport now. This is their 6th season in Formula 1, been there since 1985, and they can still handle it. Here's Fittipaldi battling away with one of the Zach speeds. Fairly sure that was Ginzani going through. It was indeed. Now, this is unfortunate for the life cars because we know that they're competitive. The two drivers are very talented indeed, but the car just doesn't seem to have what it takes to be at the front out there.
Well, this championship is quite a mixture in terms of the jumbling up reliability and car performance, and we know that most of the cars this year, especially in the first round of Phoenix, are suffering with reliability. With the new update practically supporting several teams of this new Mexico circuit in terms of reliability, it's just going to be about pushing up the performance now for the rest of the season, in my opinion.
So Brundle and Martini are still stretching away. They've pulled 4.5 seconds clear of the Lola. So Minardi definitely with a car that can operate at the high altitude. But still that Lola is ever present. The cars are 3rd and 7th at the moment. And we are getting close to that one-stop strategy window because, of course, in the pre-qualifying, they have a mandatory 1 pit stop. They can take it pretty much any time they like in the race, but they must make just the 1 mandatory pit stop, and all teams must do so all cars must make one mandatory pit stop. So it comes down to strategy, it comes down to who can make the undercut, but it also comes down to good tactics out on the racetrack itself, Will, because we've seen a few drivers make some big impacts just by choosing to go a couple of laps longer on their stints.
Well, I don't mean to sound like I'm pushing up my driver's ability in terms of the strategy, but Michael in Imola pitting a couple laps early, to my memory, managed to jump a few cars ahead and get closer to the one that he was battling. So I definitely agree with you in that fact, and it's just going to be a case of perfecting the strategy as I think the car will be able to go all the way.
Well, we saw a little bit of the new driver in Formula 1, Eddie Irvine. Here's the returning man in the sport, Eric Bernard. Started the season with Lola, is now in the Monteverdi. A lot of questions surrounding the Monteverdi squad in 1990. Will they still be here, for example, in 1991? But there could be a real shuffle of the deck for the 1991 season. There's obviously an announcement made recently that BMW will be on the grid next year, and Lamborghini are now putting together a race team. So there could be quite a few additions to the Grand Prix grid. But people do seem to like this pre-qualifying, then a Grand Prix element of it, because you've got the small independent teams or the small factory efforts that are trying to work their way up onto the Grand Prix grid, and then they go up against the big guns of the sport in the main Grand Prix itself. It's double the entertainment for the fans, but it's also a real showcase for young talent moving into Grand Prix racing. Here's the move from Irvine on the inside of Schumacher, and Schumacher again demonstrating real bravery there on the outside to hold Irvine at bay. He will not let the Northern Irishman through.
Well, the pre-qualifying races as well, it allows a spotlight for teams to show off their sponsors and get that extra bit of funding that can push them into the Grand Prix and the ability to qualify for the races, unlike the old format of qualifying for a race and seeing if you can get the correct time. There's just so much more action in this series.
Very much more entertaining for the fans as well. Oh, that was JJ Leto giving Yannick Dalmas a real headache, and that really backed him into Winkelhock there, unfortunately, so Winkelhock losing the place. Now, here's Zanardi, a young driver we're definitely picking up on. He is giving Suzuki a bit of a hard time now, the Lego Acela driver, so Zanardi putting in a good effort. Here's Paul Warwick in the Porsche, trying to hustle in behind Giacomelli. The Porsches are very quick this year, we know that, but they just haven't been reliable enough to get to a race finish yet, and they had qualification pretty much nailed on at Montreal, but with a few laps to go, they had the bad luck returned to them once again. Here come the Minardis, and it looks as though there's going to be a challenge for third place. I did say that Zanardi was making inroads into Suzuki. He's making big inroads into Suzuki. I think he's going to try and make the move midway round the next lap, because he's gained a lot of time. He's now just 0.6 of a second behind the Japanese driver. And this is a racer that a lot of people have been talking about recently, Will. Zanardi is definitely a name to watch for.
Well, certainly we've every team on the grid has been interested in Zanardi, and I can tell you that for a fact. He's just emanating so much talent and performance. He can get every inch of performance out of a car, and realistically, that is what a team just wants: a driver who's smooth on the car but can easily push it all the way.
Well, that didn't go according to plan for Joe Winkelhock. He's just let Yannick Dalmas and the AGS come by. This time, Martin Brundle wants to hold on to the lead. Look at Zanardi again, putting the pressure on Suzuki. He really wants to give him a little bit more punishment into these long apexes. He wants to try and get him off guard and make the jump through. But Suzuki doing exactly what he needs to, just trying to shake him off as he comes off the racing line and then returns to his position as well. He's desperately trying to make these advantages of his count. But look, he moves across to try and break the toe, but Zanardi goes with him. And this is so critical in trying to make an overtaking move, because you've got this long straight. It's longer than the straight at Monza, this one, and it really is a good opportunity for drivers to make overtaking moves.
Well, like many people have been saying, slipstream causes overtakes, as we can see here as Eddie Irvine once again attempts to challenge up the inside of Michael Schumacher in the Reynard, and Irvine has finally gotten past the German and relegated him to P10.
And there's Leto on the inside of Menu. No chance. Alain Menu holds it round the outside and keeps it very nicely nailed there to the outside line. And as the battle continues its way, there's Eric Bernard, just trying to get used to this new Monteverdi car. It's new to him anyway, because he's replaced Andrea Chiesa. And apparently there are rumours arrived that Stefan Johansson, who is injured, of course, at Imola, has actually been released from his contract at Monteverdi, and Bernard has now been given the drive full-time. So Chiesa will remain as test driver at Monteverdi, but Bernard has actually been given the keys to the job full-time now, as Brundle makes a key moment in that race. He pulls a second clear of his teammate, and that definitely tries to... that gives us a bit of a demonstration of the notoriety and the leadership within the team. It's clear that Brundle wants a piece of the action, as Suzuki continues to shake off continues to shake off Zanardi as they battle it out for third position. But the Minardi's so strong up front, and as I say that, Brundle goes off!
Oh.
Well,
Such a shame.
how has that happened? How has that? Has he just made a mistake? We've got to look on board. Did something go wrong on the car, Will? We'll have to look.
I think he might have just gone a bit too hot into the corner, I think, Jake.
Indeed he did. Did it all on his own.
Just as I was about to say that Martin Brundle has been doing a spectacular job in the Grand Prix, I believe he's now pulling off to retire from the race, and indeed he is.
Well, the thing is, he's trying to reverse the car back onto the racetrack, so this is terrible bad luck for Martin Brundle and the Minardi team. So here he goes, he's found reverse, but he had to let the entire field go first. And there goes the Reynard and the Real still battling away. That is Ratzenberger and Ribs. That just shows you how impressive the Minardis had been up until that point. They had pulled well clear, but I'm afraid Martin Brundle really has thrown away a chance of winning the pre-qualifying race. He's just got to hope now that Martini keeps the car in the top three teams over the finish line. He's leading on his own now, but we've got Zanardi and Suzuki battling away. If anything happens to Martini up front, then Martin Brundle has thrown away qualification for the Grand Prix.
Well, honestly, I have no words for that, to be honest. Martini really will be keeping his fingers crossed, as will the entire Minardi team, that his car will keep going and he can keep it on the road, basically, at this point. It's pushed Zanardi into the top three, meaning that's going to be another team. Well, obviously, he would have qualified anyway, but another team on the podium, which is perfect for the fans, but heartbreak from Minardi.
So, an interesting battle, as it's now Giacomelli we're watching. He runs in P6. He is, of course, still the man who runs in the top of the title. Oh, that's Alan McNish pulling off. So McNish has got a problem in the life. It's a gearbox failure, I'm afraid. So Alan McNish's car coming to a stop on the main straight. That is unfortunate for Alan McNish, but it's kind of been a lot of the story of the Life team this year. They've had good speed, but they haven't really had reliability. And the two drivers that are there, Alan McNish and Christian Fittipaldi, have not really been given the opportunity to showcase their immediate skills. They did have that rather fortuitous moment in Brazil when their cars did actually manage to get into the Grand Prix. Here's Suzuki, and now Zanardi finally making his bid. I did say it would be imminent that he would try and make his overtaking move, but no, Suzuki does not let it happen. And look, he's joined the party. Johnny Herbert is now in the mix to try and come up into the top three, and they are one place away from qualification, of course.
I think Zanardi just has to be careful that he doesn't allow Herbert through in an attempt of an overtake, because I thought...
Oh, that's Ribs! That's Ribs! I'm so sorry to cut you off there, Will, but Willie T. Ribs in trouble as well, and it's the same problem as we saw from the Life, gearbox failure.
I think the effect of the high altitude of the circuit is really coming to effect now. The drivers have been pushing for a good 15 laps as we enter the pit stop window now, and unfortunately the cars really just aren't able to hold it like the full-time Grand Prix cars. So another driver out the race, and the rest of the drivers will be praying that their engines and gearboxes can hold on.
Well, this is now the battle for second place, and it is a four-way scrap. We've got Suzuki, Zanardi, Herbert and Blundell all trying to grab second place in this race. 10 seconds adrift from Martini. We've got four different teams in the top four places. Minardi, Lola, Osella and Dallara. Here comes Zanardi, making his bid on the inside into the Peralta! Oh my goodness, that was so close, and Suzuki very nearly spun off the circuit, just trying to keep him at bay. This is getting very tense indeed, and now watch for Johnny Herbert. He could get past both of them. As you were saying, Will, Zanardi's got to be so careful here, otherwise there's going to be a big problem. And now we've got the other Osella trying to swarm by and make a move as well. And look, you were right, Herbert's got through.
Well, I thought that that Suzuki would be up for grabs there after that corner. I thought that Zanardi had pushed him into a mistake, but instead it is the British driver getting through past Zanardi, and now could even be challenging Suzuki. No, Suzuki shuts the door on him. I think that just shows that this back corner especially is so difficult to overtake on, but it's so entertaining to watch these cars fly around the circuit.
This is exactly what we were hoping to see here in Mexico City. A lot of overtaking, a lot of great battles, and several teams in with a chance of getting through to the final three. So Martini leads the way in the Minardi, 12 seconds clear of this pack now. Suzuki, Herbert and the two Ocellas running well. There's Paul Warwick, locks up as he chases after Giacomelli, but if things kick off in front, Porsche do still have a good chance of getting through, but then we've said that the last 5 races, and it's all come to nothing. Here's Martini running a great race up in front. Suzuki comes out of the final turn now, and that is Ratzenberger in the second Reynard behind his teammate Schumacher. Both cars running solidly there in the top 10. The Derimilk Sare Reynards. And in 11th place behind, that's Alain Menu in front of Yannick Dalmas and JJ Leto. So Leto going as well as he can in the Monteverde. Very much flying the flag for the squad there with his new teammate Eric Bernard. And here's Johnny Herbert having another go at Suzuki. He comes from a long way back again, and Suzuki again defends long into the apex. They are getting so close to contact.
It was the same corner as well. I think Suzuki has just locked down any line that Herbert could use through that corner to overtake him. I don't think Herbert should even be attempting to overtake at that corner, because if he gets it wrong, he could be sent off into a spin. And maybe if he goes too hot like Martin Brundle did, we'll have to wait for the entire grid to go past.
So Martini is the first pit stop of the race. There you go. He's got the lead, 13 seconds clear, so he may as well roll the dice and go first, because he's got an advantage that essentially the team can't really get this wrong. They just got to give him a relatively decent pit stop. They don't have to rush this, so Martini can take his time almost in the pit stop. And as he comes through, this is a pretty solid effort from the team. It's a 9-second stop, 8.9 to be precise, and it's bang on as also into the pits comes Alessandro Zanardi. Struggled to make an impact there with Suzuki and Herbert, so he's decided to make the pit stop now. Martini gets out, and look at that, clear track, Will. That's so important when you make a pit stop of that nature in a race you're trying to win.
Indeed it is. I was worried that he would come out just in between Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine, and if he got held up for too long and Herbert managed to pull away, as also Johnny Herbert has got past Aguri Suzuki there, that sort of went a bit under the radar as we looked at Suzuki coming into the pit lane. But nonetheless, if he was stuck in that train of cars and Herbert did somehow manage to pull away, that could have thrown away another Grand Prix win for Minardi. But they've managed to get it in clean air, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, Johnny's done a good job there. Clearly made the move on Suzuki into the first corner at the end of that long straight. That's how he managed to get the move done. But Johnny Herbert has taken the lead. And look, the Dallara's got a little bit of a squirt of pace there, because he's been able to pull out half a second on Suzuki in the opening sector at least. And now he's got Blundell all over the back of him now, Aguri Suzuki. And Blundell will not let him rest. And there goes Suzuki, decides to pit. Now that was good tactics there from Aguri Suzuki. He knew that he was vulnerable to attack from Blundell, so he decided to take it out of the equation and make a pit stop.
Well, that just shows that Aguri Suzuki does have a good grasp of the strategy element of this Formula 1 pre-qualifying race. However, with the pace Johnny Herbert is showing, I'm not entirely sure if Suzuki can pull off some form of undercut on the British driver. We'll just wait to see if it was a good pit stop. 8.8, that's a good pit stop, that's it.
Yeah, slightly quicker than Martini, but the Minardi is long gone already and has caught the back of Michael Schumacher's Reynard on fresh tyres, so has a good chance of moving forward as Menu in the Porsche pits in. So a good start, but the Minardi is making some good progress now onto the back of Schumacher's Reynard, and Schumacher does not want to let him go. So this is interesting. The race leader before the pit stops, Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, struggling to make inroads into the new boy, Michael Schumacher. So this could be an interesting dynamic for the Italian. He's got fresher tyres than Schumacher, so surely he should make a decent impact, because they're all on relatively light fuel loads anyway. So the tyres will make a massive difference, but the very fact that Schumacher is up for a fight here with Martini, he really wants to give the man some aggravation, and Martini cannot get through. Well, there you go. That's going to be interesting. Now, Blundell will be passed by Martini, no problem at all. But Schumacher showcasing some talent here, and Martini having to work quite hard to get past the Reynard.
Well, I know for a fact that Michael is not a driver who, regardless of where you are on the circuit, whether you're overtaking him or you're pit stop ahead or whatever, he will not let you by. He will make you fight for that position, and he will make you fight for the championship or the win that you are trying to take. He'll make you fight for 23rd if it makes sure that it makes him look good. But nonetheless,
we've now got Leto and Brundle having a good scrap. So Brundle trying to get himself back into position, and that puts Brundle into 11th place. Johnny Herbert leads the race in the Dallara. His closest challengers have now both pitted because Blundell's in, and Suzuki pitted as well. Now Blundell actually came out ahead of Suzuki. Now we need to pick up on that, where they are on the circuit, because Blundell, look there, Blundell jumped the Reynard. So that was a good in-lap from Blundell and a terrible out-lap for Suzuki. He got held up there, and now he's battling with the other Osella of Zanardi again. But Blundell and Herbert could now both jump Suzuki and Zanardi, because Blundell has got out no problem at all in 7th place. Martini is there in P6, but an absolutely fantastic situation. Now Martini's going to try and make his bid on Michael Schumacher again, as Irvine pits in the Real. Schumacher once more absolutely defiant to stop Martini coming through. Martini eventually has to just throw it up the inside, but now we know just how kind of a defensive driver Michael Schumacher can be. So a fascinating scenario there, as Paul Warwick continues to chase after Bruno Giacomelli. And now we ride on board with Piercarlo Ghinzani as his teammate Joe Winkelhock takes to the pit lane, as does the AGS of Tarquini. That was a big mistake from Ghinzani, and he's actually battling with the Porsche of Alain Menu. And I don't think Ghinzani's going to be able to hold on to this for long, because the Porsche with superior horsepower, surely Menu is just going to dance past Ghinzani's Zach speed down the straight. As up to the inside, there goes Menu, no problem at all. The Porsche with superior grunt is able to get by, no problem. Into the pits comes Paul Warwick. So let's see what he's been able to do on his in-laps.
There we go. Apologies for that, Jake. I had a bit of an issue with my microphone there, but it's back up and working.
It happens. It happens. It's all. We've had all sorts of technical issues with microphones over the course of these Retro Racing Manager League seasons. Now that's an interesting pit stop. Herbert, a full second quicker than his rivals around him. Warwick and Schumacher pitting together as well. Martini goes through. Where's Herbert going to get out? There goes the Osella of Blundell. So Blundell has jumped the Dallara. What a great run from Mark Blundell.
Absolutely amazing from Mark Blundell to jump Brundle. Well, try saying that 10 times over, but nonetheless, he's done a fantastic job in order to get past him. He's really pushing every part of that car to perform at its maximum, and it's paid off, and he's now sitting in P3, which will eventually become 2 once Giacomelli comes into the pits.
Well, he was at the back of that quartet of drivers fighting for second, wasn't he? He was the last one in the queue. So the fact that he's now come to the front of it is very impressive work indeed from Blundell. He's just decided to bide his time. He's used the slipstream when he was able to at the right moments. And into the pits now comes Giacomelli, so he's the last of the big guns to make the pit stop. So Martini takes the lead and Minardi are back in front. But this is also critical where Giacomelli gets out, because I know for a fact that the Reynards have been going quickly. Ratzenberger still needs to pit in, but Schumacher's quick. He's in there with Irvine and Leto. And Paul Warwick's been doing good out on his stint as well. So Warwick could be about to jump into what is effectively the top 6 here, potentially, if he can get through past Ratzenberger when he makes his stop. Giacomelli makes the stop. Warwick's already pitted. But where are they going to get out? This is critical for Giacomelli. He's got a fast-moving Ratzenberger coming down the straight. And obviously Paul Warwick is in tow. So Ratzenberger gets out behind Giacomelli, but Warwick is not far away either. So there's still a very good race on for the top 6.
Well, I think the top 6 is probably one of the highlights of this season so far. It's such close battling amongst that group of drivers. And well, it's been the main source of action really that we've had. The midfield is always the best place for racing, as my dad always used to say when watching Formula 1. So I think that definitely applies to this championship as well.
Certainly does. Bernard and Winkelhock have both made pit stops under the radar. But there's Johnny Herbert. 3rd position, former race leader, but that is a proper position for him to be in now. 3rd place. And it should put the Dallara into the Mexican Grand Prix. But they've just got to keep working hard. The Converse Dallara team obviously very focused and desperately trying to keep themselves in as many Grand Prix races as they possibly can. Here's Paul Warwick making the bid on Ratzenberger. Ratzenberger clearly with tough tyres to hold on to, and now Irvine is lining up a move on Warwick. So now Warwick is going to try again, but the superior horsepower of the Porsche should surely see him in good stead. But that Renault is not exactly a slow engine either. As we ride on board with Irvine, this could get interesting. Warwick's had to back off the throttle. Warwick comes back up to the inside and he takes them both in one fell swoop. Great move from Paul Warwick. He is really turning into a bit of a Scarlet Deceiver here, continuing to push his way forward, doing an amazing job. He's a chip off the old block, just like brother Derek.
Well, Paul Warwick certainly a fantastic driver. I know obviously we're in the second lane of Porsche looking for a German driver to lead the team, but they would be absolute fools to let go of Warwick at this peak in his performance. And considering he's only in pre-qualifying, I think his performance can only get better from here.
Well, considering how strong the strength of the Porsche team is, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad bet to start speaking to brother Derek about teaming them up together. I mean, put both Dereks in the same squad and put both Warwicks in the same squad is what I meant to say. Put both of them together and you could have quite an exceptional run as Porsche. And it's not like Warwick hasn't driven for a decent factory sports car team in the past. Something appears to have happened for Ratzenberger. It's a pit stop, that's what. So Ratzenberger comes into the pits. He pushed that car quite a long way into a stint with a heavy car, but he should be pretty rapid in the closing stages with a very light car and fresh tyres. So Ratzenberger could pull off some good laps now with 10 laps remaining in this pre-qualifying race. It's not a particularly fast pit stop, but he's in a good position. Now we've got Blundell second and Herbert third. They've just lapped a life as Brundle comes up the inside of Menu. Now this could be interesting between Porsche and Minardi. Brundle clearly getting a superior line out of the final turn, and Brundle is up to 11th. Now, if nothing happens to Martini, he will still progress through to the Mexican Grand Prix, but Blundell is struggling with Fittipaldi. Oh, that's why. Blundell's got an electrical problem. Herbert's got through, and the Osella is coming back to the pits. Well, disaster, Will. Absolute disaster for Osella.
I'm speechless, honestly. It looks so good for them up until this point, and they're having to pull back into the pits again with another mechanical issue this season. The Lego Osella team has been absolutely rapid, like so many other outfits this year, but the problems just keep on coming for certain teams. There's no break for them. However, with maybe, I'm not entirely sure if they did fit a new set of tyres there, Jake, or not. But if they can, they might be able to secure some points again.
Hello, cheeky move there from Irvine to get on the inside of Michael Schumacher for P7. As now it's Lola that are looking to go through to the Mexican Grand Prix once again with Aguri Suzuki. But, oh, that's Ginzani. Goodness me. That's a big blow-up for Ginzani in the Yamaha engine. And Johnny Herbert spun off trying to avoid him!
Absolute chaos at the front of this field. Johnny Herbert and Mark Blundell have both fallen out of the podium. Was that falling out of the podium positions? No, but he's being overtaken by Aguri Suzuki. And surely Zanardi will be coming up to him soon as well. Because was there damage there, Jake? I'm not
There was damage to Herbert, yes, so Herbert's going to have to pit in. His chances of getting into the Grand Prix and Dallara's chances too are well and truly gone. Now Johnny Herbert crashed, essentially trying to get out of the way of Ginzani's car as he pulled it off. I don't think he read where Ginzani was pulling off quite accurately. So the Dallara in the pits, and that's their chances of qualification gone. So now it's Osella that are back in the mix again because they are in 4th position behind the two Lolas of Suzuki and Giacomelli. And then the car behind them is Paul Warwick in the Porsche. So there's still a chance that we could get a new team qualifying for a Grand Prix in 1990, but they've got to work very hard. Paul Warwick has got to try and keep these tyres going. And look at the battles we got out on track as a result. They're going through the traffic. Now, they haven't had to deal with this too much in this 1990 season. So now Suzuki battling away. Oh, and that's a big moment for Zanardi. If Warwick can get through, Warwick is going to put Porsche on the Grand Prix grid in Mexico.
Absolute chaos in this front pack. Christian Fittipaldi unable to let them pass extremely through this middle sector. This is where the majority of the issues have been coming from. And, well, he's certainly helping out the Porsches now as the Porsche...
Schumacher! Yet again, problems for the Reynard. Unfortunately, engine failure in the Renault, and Schumacher's brilliant drive has come to naught. It was going so well for Reynard, and I know that's bittersweet for my colleague Will Knight, but what a performance again from Michael Schumacher today. He really has shown that he is a star in the making, but it's such an unfortunate result for him because he deserved so much more from this race.
Realistically, we have no idea what this young man can achieve. We took a gamble on taking him as from the reserve driver position at Williams. Obviously, he's their reserve driver still nonetheless. They have first dibs on him, but we wanted to give him some driver experience, and he's been absolutely fantastic so far this year, but the car just hasn't been performing as we would like for him. And that's another issue for him in the Grand Prix.
That's Dalmas going now. Dalmas in the AGS. They had just crept into the top 10 as well. So Yannick Dalmas bringing the AGS to a stop. Now, what's their problem? Electrics again. You see, it's what you said earlier, Will. It's these high altitudes. They really do take a punishment on these cars.
Well, we've seen it so many times in Mexico, in other racing categories, and in Formula One. But especially at this circuit, the high altitude is really punishing on those engines, and you need reliability when you're coming to this circuit. And in all honesty, the word around the paddock that Porsche had increased the reliability of their engines is certainly looking like it's paying off for them.
And Warwick's through! Warwick's through into 4th place! So Paul Warwick has got past Zanardi. This is for the final place for qualification between Porsche and Osella, and Paul Warwick has put the car into 4th position. Now with the two cars in front of them being Lola's in 2nd and 3rd, and Martini 23 seconds out in front. If Porsche can just stay in the top 4, then they will get through to the Mexican Grand Prix. Oh, and that's going to seal it! That's going to seal it! Zanardi now in trouble as well! Well, it seems as though Osella were never destined to get into the Grand Prix. Warwick's been held up by backmarkers. That could have cost him the place had it not been for a blow-up for Zanardi.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire for certain teams here, as it was such an amazing start to the race. We had 0 cars out in the first few stages.
And there goes Irvine as well! Irvine as well! Oh my word, what a race. What a race this has turned out to be. We've got Zanardi in trouble and on fire now. And we've also got Irvine. So that's going to put Blundell back into 5th position. Blundell's going to get back into the top 5. It may not be over for Osella just yet.
Means that Roland Ratzenberger will get into the points as well there. So a bit of a cheer from the Reynard garage I heard coming from the commentary box, and obviously a bit of an internal scream as well when I saw that happen. So although really difficult for the two drivers who just fell out of the race, as I said, there's still 8 laps, and well, there's 6 laps remaining now, but it is certainly not over.
And certainly not for Osella, because Blundell is only in P5, so he's got a chance to move forward, as Warwick is now doing a fine job in P4, and he's got a few seconds on Blundell. His biggest issue at the moment is the traffic. And look, the two Lolas are dicing. The two Lolas are battling away for 2nd and 3rd. They need to calm that down, because if they're not careful, Warwick is going to have a chance to catch them. They've still got 4 laps to go. The Lolas need to sort their act out a bit here. Giacomelli is making a bid for Suzuki. What are these two doing?
Well, I'm actually physically shaking right now, Jake, because of the immense, well, tension of this Grand Prix, really, of this pre-qualifying race. And now that Giacomelli and Suzuki, Giacomelli's got through on his teammate, if they don't calm it down and we see both cars retire, I can tell you the team principal will certainly not be very happy over with them.
And now Leto. Now Leto's got a gearbox problem. Yet again, the Monteverde falls by the wayside. And that's such a shame. He's let his teammate go, but Leto is going to pull off on the pit straight. And that is another DNF at Monteverde, as through goes Martini in the lead. And the marshals go straight to work and lift JJ Leto's car off the circuit. But the battle is raging further back as Leto's car is removed from the main straight. Now, here are the two Lolas battling away, Giacomelli and Suzuki. Giacomelli seems to have got the better of him. I wonder if this is the veteran, Bruno Giacomelli, trying desperately not to be upstaged by this young Japanese charge alongside him.
Well, he's certainly not being upstaged now. He's pulled nearly a second clear of his teammate. So the Lola's really showing a difference in pace, and maybe that early pit stop really has cost him.
Well, Paul Warwick is just praying, as is everybody at Porsche, because they're there in 4th position. This might just be the day. We said that in Canada, and it didn't happen. We're all, I think, a lot of the paddock are just hoping this is the day we finally get to see a Porsche in a Grand Prix once again. 1990 could be the year that Porsche finally returns to top flight Grand Prix racing. They've been pre-qualifying since the start of the year. They said at the start, we're not going to be winning races anytime soon. You've got to be patient with us. We're trying to work things out. The engine isn't there yet, but we've got power. We just need a little bit of reliability and a little bit of luck. Porsche have been working hard at this. They've got a lot of expertise from their IndyCar operation, and now they've been able to adapt to the Formula 1 regulations. Oh, Warwick actually tried to lap the Zach speed there and got caught out. Now, hopefully that's not a mechanical issue. They're just going to be able to ride the tide. Warwick's still going. There's Brundle. Welcome back, mate. You're in P6.
Well, a bit of a comeback for Martin Brundle after that. Well, in all honesty, a bit of a shambles at the beginning of this Grand Prix. He was leading, he was in the top 2, and unfortunately just spun it and allowed his teammate to cruise to an easy victory.
And now he's got pressure still in the shape of Johnny Herbert, the sole remaining Dallara driver, as Suzuki runs a little bit wide. Well, obviously the car is worked to its limits here, and Suzuki just getting it a little bit sideways there. But the Zach speed of Ginzani is proving to be... the Zach speed of Winkelhock, I should say, is proving to be a bit of a thorn in the side for Porsche, because they just can't get past it. And this isn't really doing Joe Winkelhock any favours, because they want a German driver in a Formula 1 car next year at Porsche. And I don't think they're going to be calling him up the way things are currently going. Now, Menu seems to have lost the place to Ratzenberger. Ratzenberger's got through into P8 at the first corner. And now Katayama's making the bid on Menu. Nice move from the Japanese. Remember, he was dead last at one point, Katayama. And the Japanese driver really has fought back into P9. Good effort there. No mechanical problems for Menu. They're just trying to bring the car home. But they're focusing all the way through at the moment on Paul Warwick, because he's still there in P4 with Martini now on the final lap. Surely it's going to be these 3 teams, Minardi, Lola and Porsche, that get through to the Mexican Grand Prix. Surely.
Well, we've certainly heard that in the past, Jake, and then about 30 seconds later it appears that you've jinxed them and they've retired from the race with an engine problem. So it's not over till you get to the finish, and like you just said, Katayama has really provided a spectacular show in terms of his overtaking and a bit of luck as well in this Grand Prix, as Martini comes through the final couple corners now.
Into the Peralta for the last time. It's been perfect from Pierluigi Martini. Barely a wheel wrong all day as he comes out of the final turn. Minardi get through to the Mexican Grand Prix as Pierluigi Martini wins the pre-qualifying heat. A fantastic performance from him. 22 seconds clear of the Lolas as the AGS of Tarquini comes through, as does Fangio the second. He's not going to get through with Eurobrun. Kathy Muller likewise. Giacomelli well and truly sorting out his teammate Aguri Suzuki. But there's the man we wanted to see, Paul Warwick and Porsche. They've taken 6 races to do it, but finally their luck has turned. Lola are in the race with Giacomelli and Suzuki, and now Paul Warwick and Porsche finally in a Grand Prix. Yes, they've made it. Excellent result for the Porsche team.
Well, Scott Woodwest will certainly be jumping up and down like a child on Christmas. Christmas was 6 days ago, but this is certainly going to be even better for him now, as he's finally seen his team qualify for the race in Mexico.
You got to give full credit to Blundell and Brundle. They both drove brilliantly today. They just miss out on qualify. Well, Brundle does, courtesy of his teammate Martini, but Blundell and Osella were so close to getting into the Grand Prix today. But it's Porsche, Lola and the winners Minardi that do so on this particular occasion. Fantastic result. There's the confirmation. Minardi, LaRousse, Lola and Porsche will be in the Grand Prix of Mexico in a few short moments' time. Blundell and Brundle next up in the top 6 from Johnny Herbert, Roland Ratzenberger, Ukyo Katayama, and the second Porsche in the top 10. They're both going to the big show. Bernard is 11th from Tarquini, Fangio and Muller in the 2 Eurobruns, Winkelhock 15th, very disappointing race from him, and Fittipaldi in 16th in the sole remaining life. 10 retirements, better than we've seen in the past, but definitely some controversial ones. Damon Hill from the front end of the field, so too Willie T. Ribbs battling in the top 6. Schumacher drove a great race. Irvine and Zanardi in the same lap as each other when they were 5th and 6th on the road. So some big problems for them, but a great result for the guys up front. The fastest lap of the race, Martin Brundle, and there's already calls for him to be the driver of the day from that particular race. So a fabulous result, and it means that we've got Minardi, Lola and Porsche in the 1990 Mexican Grand Prix, Will. Fantastic performance from them.
Yeah, well, certainly a fantastic performance from all of the drivers to keep their cars on the road with all the problems going ahead. But if you're looking at a good old driver of the day, I certainly would be voting for Bruno Giacomelli, to be honest. He kept the car on the road. He managed to do a fantastic job, and right at the end of the race, he put his teammate back in his place as the second driver and pushed forward for a solid second place and a trophy on the podium.
It was a very good effort. It's worth pointing that out as well. So some good performances all through the field. But it definitely gives us plenty to talk about as we head into the next race of the day, which is the main event, and it's the one that they've all been trying to get into in the first place. It's obviously the race that will decide who can compete at the front end of the field, but we now know that the 3 teams that will be on the starting grid for the Mexican Grand Prix of 1990 are going to be Minardi, Lola and Porsche. The Mexican Grand Prix is next.
Ah, what music!
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it. Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind? That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like it being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan will cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm, tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when he runs it close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it. Those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
When we get you prime, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were. But trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. You sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there. Out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes. Every gear change, every corner. Perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do. It's passion, love, which is why we're prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
fine. Then let's race.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree, an absolute thriller in the pre-qualifier to give us Minardi, Lola and Porsche for the first time qualifying for a Formula 1 Grand Prix. And it is the Mexican Grand Prix, so it's sure to have plenty of action and excitement on this very fast, very flowing, twisty circuit. High altitude, which means that the attrition rates could be very high, and we could see a lot more drivers dropping out of the race. But we've got the big guns coming up now, Will, and this is going to be a real test of the nerves and steel of the drivers in Grand Prix racing. Could we see a sixth different winner in 6 races?
Oh, I certainly think we could. This Formula 1 1990 season has been absolutely unpredictable in terms of the winners that we have seen. And even last race, as mentioned in the past, with Ayrton Senna grinding to a halt. Well, I don't think we expected any of that. So let's just see how this race pans out, and hopefully it will be another fantastic race.
Well, we're not going to wait around. 69 laps to go here in the Mexican Grand Prix, and it's Thierry Boutsen that lines up in pole position for Williams, with Jean Alesi, the latest Grand Prix winner in Formula 1, in the Tyrrell in second place. Ayrton Senna's McLaren alongside Nigel Mansell's Ferrari. Gerhard Berger in the second McLaren alongside Patrese in the second of the Williams cars. Nelson Piquet, the leading Benetton in P7. Alain Prost struggling for pace in 8th position. Alessandro Nannini and Mika Hakkinen are 9th and 10th on row 5. Then it's Michele Alboreto and Eddie Cheever. The Arrows and the Ligier going well here. Derek Warwick in the Lotus ahead of the Brabham of Stefano Modena. Then Nicola Larini alongside Adrian Fernandez. Mauricio Gugelmin and Martin Donnelly ahead of Ivan Capelli. And the Minardi of Martin Brundle, the fastest of the pre-qualifying drivers. Ricard Rydell's Tyrrell is alongside Paul Warwick in the fast improving Porsche. Bruno Giacomelli and Aguri Suzuki in the 2 Lolas. And then it's Pierluigi Martini's Minardi and Alain Menu in the final of the Porsches. So, the cars are ready for victory. It's the first time that the brothers Warwick are going to be in the same Grand Prix. That is a fabulous moment, so we'll have to keep an eye on those two. And it's going to be a fabulous Grand Prix from the front. Thierry Boutsen puts the Williams Honda in pole position. Can they finally get a race win in 1990? Red lights are on. Let's race in Mexico! Great start from the front of the grid. Alesi's got an absolute flyer, though, in the Tyrrell. He bolts away. Boutsen has not got a great start. The Ferrari comes through in a second place for Nigel Mansell. Piquet has launched past both of the Benettons. In the middle of the field, Senna's had an absolute howler of a start. Piquet gets bowled by Berger as he comes up to the first corner, and Jean Alesi's got the lead into the first corner. Boutsen is going to try and hold it, and there's contact further back. Mansell's been hit by Senna, I believe.
Absolute shambles from Ayrton Senna there just colliding with Nigel Mansell. But what a start for Jean Alesi. I can't even tell how far away he is from the rest of the grid already.
No, it wasn't Senna. No, it was Senna. I do apologise. Yes, it was. Senna has hit Mansell. Senna has hit Mansell in the Ferrari. I thought it might have been Berger, but on the replay, we can clearly see that it was Ayrton Senna locking up and striking the back. Let's watch again. Striking the back of Nigel Mansell's Ferrari. Bang!
Just completely outbraked himself and knocked the rear wing of Nigel Mansell off. From a world champion, you would expect that he would know where the braking zone is, but it does happen to every driver. Unlike this one, Jean Alesi, who now leads by, what's that, 2.1 seconds. A fantastic show from the Frenchman there. As you can see, the Benetton overtake the McLaren there, I believe that was.
Well, that's Prost getting past his teammate Mansell, who's going to have to scamper back to the pits with a broken rear wing. And there's going to be a big discussion about that one between McLaren and Ferrari, as Piquet hits the back of Mansell as well, and Mansell's off!
What an unlucky start from Nigel Mansell in Mexico. It's only lap 1 and he's already lost his front left tyre there. Well, he certainly had a bit of a poor start to his season. Not much luck for the Ferrari team. I know that Chris Calvert will probably just throw his cabinet out the window.
Well, that is a catastrophic start to the season for Ferrari already, and it just continues as Mansell, with good pace, is shunted out of the race. First with a broken rear wing by Senna, and then he's completely planted out of the race by Nelson Piquet. And you can bet your bottom dollar that there is going to be an investigation into the actions of both Senna and Piquet for their actions there, as Patrese makes his move up the inside of Nannini. Oh no, that is Piquet in the second Benetton, but Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell is running way out in front. Nannini has got past Piquet as a result of all of that melee on the first lap, but this is going to be a very controversial situation. Look at Hakkinen. Hakkinen then the Brabham is in P3. He started back in 10th, so he's been able to dodge all of the melee, and Hakkinen is now there in P3.
Well, he's certainly flying down that main straight and acting like as if he owns the place, to be honest. Mika Hakkinen, he's won a Grand Prix. He's done an excellent job so far this season. I think we can purely see him as a star of the future, maybe even a world champion one day, as is Jean Alesi leading Thierry Boutsen. I know that the team manager of Williams, Topher Smith, certainly won't be happy with the way that has started for Boutsen, but he is beginning to close in on Alesi now. So we may just have a fight on our hands.
Well, this is definitely going to be a tough race now, because we know that two world champions from Brazil are under investigation by the stewards, as Hakkinen chops across Ayrton Senna and holds him back. But Senna and Piquet are now both under investigation by the stewards for their actions on the opening lap with Nigel Mansell's Ferrari. Devastating. But what that has done, though, is it's promoted his teammate Alain Prost in the other Ferrari up into 5th position. So he's gained some ground there that he probably had no reason to expect he could. So Prost up into the top 5. That definitely gives Ferrari something to think about as they move forward. But it's definitely going to be a tough race for the rest of the campaign for Ferrari now here in Mexico. They probably thought that Mansell was their best shot at victory after the position he started from. And Nigel Mansell, absolutely enraged, starts to make his way back to the pit lane. He can't quite believe it. He's only just got out of the car because he was so angry. And I think he's got every reason to be. That's the second time this year that he has it. Brundle makes the same mistake as he did in the pre-qualifying race in exactly the same place.
We told him not to make the mistake. He was warned by his team at the beginning of this Grand Prix. Take it easy. Don't slide off the road. And the Minardi has just gone straight into the wall. And, well, he's going to have to pit there. He's lost half of his front wing. And such a disappointing performance from Martin Brundle after so much promise this young British driver has shown. Especially around Mexico, has not been backed up by his consistency.
Wow, a very crazy season. This is turning into a Senna again tries and again fails to get past Mika Hakkinen into turn 1. And now we've got Chiva, the Ligier driver, making a good start here in Mexico. And he's up into 11th place. A good start from Chiva. He knows this circuit very well. He's raced in Formula 1 for a few years now. And Brundle is into the pits to repair the damage to his Ligier, to his Minardi, sorry. But it's a good run from Chiva as he moves up into 11th place. There could be a good haul of points for both Arrows and Ligier today. Very strong in qualifying for 1 lap pace. So it's good to see them making some inroads into the big guys up at the front end of the field. But Jean Alesi is just doing what he does best out front.
Well, Jean Alesi, what can you say? You can't really fault him at this point, although Boutsen is slowly catching him with what Williams will be paying attention to there as Ricardo Petresi is stuck behind Nini there. But Jean Alesi, he's controlling the pace out in front, and he really is looking like the star of the future. He's been linked with so many teams, Williams, for example, Ferrari, we just don't know. And it's such a young point in his career. He's only just made his debut, a few races ago, and he's already led 2 Grand Prix, won 1, and is possibly en route to winning another one here.
And here's Petresi having a nice little tussle with the Benettons. Is he up the inside of Nannini? He is indeed, and that puts him up into 7th place as Nannini nearly cuts across his own teammate there, Nelson Piquet. So some big difficulties for the stewards to come up with now in terms of how they deal with Piquet and Mansell as a result of their incidents. Now there are a number of things they can do because obviously Senna's contact with Mansell damaged his car irreparably to the point where he had to recover back to the pits. Piquet's the one who actually put him out of the race. But it's a very tough situation because obviously, the likes of Senna and Piquet are going to be trying their best to move forward. Whoa, that's Gugelmin! And that's a big moment for him. Is he going to be able to save it? No. Unfortunately, he goes a little too far over the apex there. And so Gugelmin spins the Leighton House off the circuit. Now he's going to have to try and recover. I think he may have got away with that without damaging the front wing. So he's just got to be very careful how he recovers, obviously. Go the right way around the circuit. Yeah, that's the better idea as he does recover to the circuit. There's Hakkinen in the Brabham running in P3. But we've got Gugelmin, Donnelly and Brundle all down at the back of the field after separate incidents. Here's Derek Warwick making his move to come past the Leighton House of Ivan Capelli. So Capelli now running in 14th place. It always fascinates me, Will, how from one race to the next, some teams have the pace and others are struggling to find it. Leighton House were right on the pace in Brazil. Oh, and that's Giacomelli! Giacomelli spins right into the path of the Porsche, and that is Menu going off. So he's off and he's damaged the car. So Menu was right in front of Paul Warwick. Let's see what it was like on board from Menu. Giacomelli spins. Menu tries to avoid him. But the rear wheel comes off. What a shame.
So disappointing for Porsche. They had such a fantastic pre-qualifying race to get into the Grand Prix. And, well, qualified quite spectacularly with the battle with the sellers. But nonetheless, Menu has gone into the wall, and I think Scott Woodward is lucky that he has Warwick in his car, because Warwick was able to avoid that incident without any damage, if my eyes serve me correctly there, Jake.
I think you're right, Will. Yes, the other Porsche remains unscathed, but Menu out of the race, trying to avoid the spinning Giacomelli. As we've got Alesi now being caught by Boutsen, and here comes Senna finally making his beat on Hakkinen again. Hakkinen slices across on the McLaren of Ayrton Senna. And we still don't really know what the punishment is going to be for the two Brazilians at the start of the race. It's an interesting one there. Senna and Piquet. Senna's currently P4. Piquet is currently P8. But neither car is damaged as a result of their incident. Now that could be quite a slam dunk in terms of what the stewards elect to do, as the Minardi very nearly dices up the inside of the Lola there. So Martini having a go at Aguri Suzuki. They're going to be side by side as they run in behind Paul Warwick. Interestingly, though, isn't it, is that the Porsche is now actually leading of the pre-qualifiers, isn't he? So the Porsche is out in front now of the pre-qualifying drivers.
Well, we know they have the pace to perform. We know that the main problem for them has been reliability, and now that they have broken into this Grand Prix and finally able to qualify without having an engine failure, they really are showing their pace as one of the front runners in the pre-qualifying teams. But one of the front runners that I want to focus on right now, and I may sound like a broken clock repeating myself here, but is John Alesi and Thierry Boutsen. They've left the grid behind as Ayrton Senna still struggling to get past his, Finnish driver, Mika Hakkinen. And realistically, compared to his championship year in 1988, Ayrton Senna has not been the same driver. He's retired, I think, 4 of the Grand Prix, and the other one that he has finished in, he won. So I think he just needs a bit more luck and, well, possibly just to make a few less mistakes, and he'll have a good rest of the season whilst his teammate is leading the World Championship.
So this is a fascinating Mexican Grand Prix. We've got Alesi and Boutsen battling for the lead. Hakkinen and Senna battling for third. Prost is keeping Berger honest, actually, in the McLaren, so they don't have the pace that they thought they were going to have here in Mexico, as Hakkinen locks up, trying to keep Senna at bay. This third-place battle is slowly becoming a little bit of a lost cause for victory, isn't it? Because the gap is opening up to 7 seconds now between Alesi and Boutsen. Senna clearly losing a massive amount of time stuck behind Hakkinen, but he can't do anything about it at the moment. The Brabham is just holding on to its lead and its advantage. It's a great comeback for the team to be running up at the sharp end of the field, but a couple of seasons ago they weren't even on the grid anymore, as Hakkinen again holds on. Now Senna's been patient this time, sat behind Hakkinen. Is this going to be the difference, that Senna's going to have the chance to pop out behind the Brabham? He has to think about it. Gets back in the slipstream, and surely now this is going to be Senna's best chance of getting into third place. Swarms around behind Hakkinen. Berger's trying to make the same move on Prost. Senna tries again. And is it going to work? This time it does. So Senna gets into third place. And Berger gets Prost at the same time.
The McLaren's finally making moves up through the field. Senna promoted into the podium positions with Gerhard Berger in P5, trying to chase him down to maintain that lead in the World Championship from Warwick, I believe, who is in second place. And, well, as I said, but Senna just needs to be a bit more patient, ducking and weaving behind the Brabham with Mika Hakkinen, and finally got the move done.
So there is the Minardi still progressing. That's Martin Brundle. And there's Boutsen, still putting pressure on Alesi. But Alesi's not cracking under the strain, and Boutsen, with the same horsepower, the same Honda engine, is not really able to get one over on the Tyrrell at the moment. It's great to see the resurgence of Tyrrell. They hadn't won Grand Prix since 1983, and they haven't won a title since 1973. But Ken Tyrrell is still the man at the helm, with assistance from Sam Hall. And it's amazing to see that that team still has what it takes to produce a decent car, thanks to their designer, Harvey Postlethwaite, and a fabulous run from their new budding superstar, Jean Alesi.
I think Tyrrell is certainly just showing a resurgence in terms of its performance. It's got that new title sponsor in the new brand Red Bull, which we haven't heard much about, but it's emerged as this energy drinks company, which is taking the world by storm in comparison to the rest of the drinks that we've seen come and go in Formula One. But nonetheless, I don't think we'll be saying goodbye to Tyrrell for another 20 years of this, right?
So the battle continues on. Boutsen right underneath Alesi now, as Alesi still holds station in the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. Now, we've had a report come in that one of our reporters has caught up with Nigel Mansell. We'll have to read that in a moment, because Boutsen is trying to get past Alesi and has to back off the throttle. Apparently Mansell has been talking to a reporter, and he said, "I've been rammed off the road by a couple of petulant children who aren't winning the title. The stewards should throw the book at them." A very irate Nigel Mansell, and the whole Ferrari team almost certainly should be backing them up on that one, because it's clear. Boutsen leads! Boutsen has taken Alesi. Boutsen gets the lead from Jean Alesi. Let's look at it again. Looks like a fairly textbook overtaking move, but the Williams is going to take the lead here. He tucks back in behind Alesi to gain a little bit more momentum, dives up the inside, and Williams leads the Mexican Grand Prix with Thierry Boutsen.
Well, I think just going back to your point about Nigel Mansell there, saying that calling his compatriots children, with the way that both of the drivers are finding the handling of the Ferrari this year, I think it's getting a premature call up to drive for the team. There is a driver who, well, as they said, with the rumours that crossed with Peugeot and Gucci and Nigel Mansell's attitude toward the team, I can't really see either of the drivers sticking around for too long at Maranello.
So that's another interesting topic, and obviously the all new for the 1990 season, the Contracts Recognitions Board, the Drivers Market, as you will, opens officially after the German Grand Prix. So teams are not allowed to start negotiations with drivers until after the German Grand Prix, and that is to make it nice and even for the teams to go about their business of hiring their drivers as evenly as possible. Look at the distance that Senna has put on Häkkinen. Having finally got past the Brabham, he's lost 7 seconds to the cars up front. So this is a controversial situation for Senna, because he's obviously under investigation for the stewards for ramming the Ferrari of Nigel Mansell off the road at turn 1. And, well, now it's turning into a very dark day at the office for him potentially, because obviously there could be a penalty coming his way for that. There could be a penalty going the way of Piquet as well, let's not forget. And, well, the battle is very intense indeed between the leaders, Boutsen and Alesi, but the man who could catch and pass them both may be in trouble. So Boutsen and Alesi may not have to worry about Senna in this race, even if he passes them.
I don't think Boutsen and Alesi will have to worry about Ayrton Senna. I think a minimum that Senna helped to put Nigel Mansell out of the race, so I believe that he will be given a penalty relatively quickly in terms of the stewards looking at the incident, as will Piquet. Method of punishment I can see being thrown at those two, if not maybe in some form of drive-through penalty.
So now it becomes about the strategy, and obviously the teams will be wanting to run as light as possible. We've heard that there's a portion of the grid that could well be going on a 2-stop strategy. That maybe is pretty much the majority of the thinking. Looking at the mats there, that looks like it could be a 2-stop strategy for Boutsen, because he's going to run till about lap 25, 26 before he pits. Alesi's doing pretty much the same thing, as is Senna and Häkkinen. There will be a portion of the grid, though, that will go lighter. Piquet's gone lighter, interestingly, as has Cheever in the Ligier. That's why he's running up as high as 9th. So Cheever could be trying the 3-stop strategy route in the Ligier. There might be a few other cars on the grid that will do the same thing, as they try and just make their cars go a little bit further into the race. Fernandez is running quite short on fuel. And then we have Rickard Rydell running a reasonable race there. Interestingly, quite a few of the cars that might have been on that 3-stop strategy are probably not in the race anymore, because Mansell is usually one of those sort of drivers that will go for an aggressive fuel stop strategy. But Thierry Boutsen comes across the line. He leads the Mexican Grand Prix, and he's pulling away from Jean Alesi. And that is exactly what the Williams team wanted to see. And Gugelmin very nearly goes off again there in the Leighton House. He's already had one moment in the S's. He certainly can't afford to have another one.
Really not going very well for Gugelmin in the Leighton House there. It looks like his cars are a bit, he's on rails, to be honest with you. He doesn't look like he's having fun handling that. I wouldn't be surprised.
Will, we've just had a message in from race control that Senna and Piquet provisionally will be excluded from the Mexican Grand Prix. That is provisional, of course, so it can be contested, it can be appealed, but the race control have announced that they are going to exclude Senna and Piquet from the Mexican Grand Prix for their conduct on lap 1. Now that is incredibly draconian, but obviously if it is protested, then they could get the potential even more. I suppose their thinking is that essentially, between the two of them, they've put a driver out of the race. So that is a big penalty. But from the driver's point of view, they've just got to keep racing. They can't afford to think about it. They've just got to keep going in the hope that, in the steward's office later, the decisions can be overturned.
I'm not entirely sure how to react to the idea of excluding them, to be honest. I don't believe they should be excluded. Some form of penalty or a qualifying ban, for example. I'm not really too sure how you would go about the removal of a driver from the result. I believe if Ayrton Senna or even Nelson Piquet, or however unlikely it looks at this current moment, were to win the Grand Prix and they were excluded, despite finishing however many seconds ahead of the rest of the grid, there would be absolute outrage from the fans if a driver did lose the Grand Prix, it was excluded for it. I believe that Senna and Piquet should be both handed penalties, but not really that level of, like you said, draconian style.
If it was you, Will, if you had the iron rod, what do you think would be the ultimate situation? What do you think it would be?
Well, like you said, it depends, to be honest, in terms of the nature of the race. Obviously, you can look at it that Senna only took Mansell's wing off and Piquet completely shut him out of the race, but nonetheless, both of them made contact in the same fashion. So, a 20-second penalty to each of them, 10 if you're trying to be nice, would suffice. That's how I would do it. But at the end of the day, I'm not the stewards, and they'll go about how they want to do it.
Well, it's an interesting situation, but whether or not Senna and Piquet will be allowed to keep their results will obviously have to be played out after the race in the steward's office. So that is very dramatic. But I suppose from the Ferrari's point of view, the Ferrari team have been denied the chance to go for a victory with Nigel Mansell because obviously he was ahead of Senna. And yeah, it's an interesting one. Jean-Marie Balestre obviously getting very draconian in the steward's office and has thrown both Senna and Piquet out of the race. Now, both McLaren and Benetton are entitled to appeal, of course. So, a fascinating situation. And what will Ayrton Senna say about that when he is told about it after the race, especially if he is found to have won the Grand Prix? That could be particularly tough to take for the Brazilian.
Well, we know the apparent rumours of the idea of the FIA favouring Prost in the past over Senna, and the apparent friendship between Alain Prost and Jean-Marie Balestre. So I think Ayrton Senna will probably have something to say about that, as he normally does about these incidents. But at the end of the day, he's got to get out there on.
Oh, Warwick's in trouble. Sorry, Will. We're about to lose a Lotus. They've had such a good run of late. But unfortunately, on this occasion, Warwick has got a puncture. It's a puncture to the left rear. So Derek Warwick, I'm afraid, is out of the race. We never got to see the two brothers out on circuit together, really, on the same bit of racetrack. So Derek Warwick is out of the race. Now, he will be an interested spectator to see how his brother gets on.
Well, I think as a brother, I'm not entirely sure how I'd react to a sibling finishing a Grand Prix that I didn't. Obviously, I'd be happy for them in some ways, but then part of me would be hoping that I could still finish ahead of them in some form of way. The competitive nature of brothers that we've seen in the past in motorsport really does come over the happiness or joy one finds in another's success. But at the end of the day, Warwick knows that he's a professional racing driver for Lotus. He's got to brush himself off. He's second in the championship right now. He's in that championship fight due to his consistency. And if the car hasn't performed as he would have liked, he just has to push to find ways to fix it.
Piquet passing Prost at the first corner there into lap 18. And Alain Prost getting quite irate in his attempts to try and get by. But that's one of many conversations that will be had as the sun goes down in Mexico. Here's Mauricio Gugelmin getting past the Lola LaRousse. Big horsepower difference between these two cars as Gugelmin flies past. But there's no doubt about it, he really has thrown away a decent result with his spin earlier on in the race. And that's not going to do Andrew Sampson's car any good at all. Here's Berger making his bid to get past Häkkinen. And again, Häkkinen chops across the front wing of the McLaren. So there's no chance for the Brabham driver to lose that place. Boutsen slowing! Boutsen slowing the race leader. Yet again, the Williams in trouble as the Tyrrell blast past. And for the second time this season, Thierry Boutsen retires from the lead of a Grand Prix.
Well, that's...
It's heartbreak, isn't it? Absolute heartbreak.
The Williams, I know for a fact because obviously I've been working very closely with some of the people at Williams, especially Topher Smith in recent times. They've been so hopeful of this season with the pace of their car, hoping that they can challenge McLaren after the last 2 years of absolute dominance, the only way of looking at it. But unfortunately, the motorsport gods have not looked down on them kindly, and for whatever reason, they've been put out of another race again, as they've only just managed, it looks like, to pull off David Warwick. They're sort of, I'm not entirely sure what they're doing. I think they're trying to find the easiest way to pull those cars off of the grid without damaging them further. So John Alesi, the very happy man right now. He's leading the Grand Prix in Tyrrell, as is Sam Hall. I know there was some kind of bet between Sam and Topher. I'm not entirely sure what that was supposed to be, but if it's anything about one car finishing ahead of the other, I think Sam has that.
Hakkinen hangs on to third position in front of Berger. I'm not entirely sure what the marshals are up to there at that point of the circuit, but I think they have now finally moved Derek Warwick's car out of position. They're going to move Thierry Boutsen's Williams to a safer vantage point, I think. And they're going to, yes, they've managed to get it to the crane on the far side of the circuit. So Thierry Boutsen's Williams being removed from the circuit. But that's such a shame as Fernandez pits in from P15. So the Mexican on home soil, running well in 15th position at this part of the season. But, yeah, the Williams dream is well and truly over for Thierry Boutsen. They still have Riccardo Patrese, who is running in a distant 7th at this point. He just hasn't quite been able to be on the same sort of pace. And it's unfortunate, really. Patrese has only just joined the Williams team, of course, for 1990. Sorry, it's his second year with the team. I should apologise. But there is some discussion about what will happen at Williams for 1991. There could be a major overhaul at that squad next year. Jean Alesi leads the way in the Tyrrell, and it's quite critical for the Williams team that they wanted to have a decent result here in Mexico. They are giving a press conference, I'm told, after the Mexican Grand Prix, which is very telling. They were hoping for a decent result. It might have actually swayed the decision-making process of what that press conference features, Will. These things happen from time to time, so that could have been a very telling moment for Williams.
Well, there have been so many rumours floating around the paddock of what that is going to be. Obviously, there's been so many different ideas thrown into the air. Riccardo Patrese or Thierry Boutsen both leaving the team. The promotion of Michael Schumacher from Reynard going up into the main team. Even the rumours that Topher Smith might be taking a higher position in the team and taking it further in the future. But we purely do not know what Williams are doing later on today, but we know this press conference is being hosted as soon as the race finishes. So if it is something to do with Thierry Boutsen, he's got plenty of time to put his suit and get a fresh a pair of underwear, really, after that. A bang of the engine surely would have scared him.
So Nelson Piquet is in the pits as the Benetton driver continues his quest for a race victory. And so the Benetton team are obviously trying to get him out in a decent position on the circuit. They should get him out ahead of Nicola Larini's Ligier, no trouble. Cheever was the first one to pit in. Oh no, there goes Larini, in fact, into 10th position. So Piquet rejoins in front of Capelli in the Leighton house. So that signals to me that Piquet is on a 3-stop strategy still. And it's going to be a fascinating situation after the race. As Gujamin pits in, and that's from a lowly 18th position. An opportunity missed there for Leighton House, but for Piquet, driving under a cloud, of course, as it stands, it is likely that the Benetton driver will lose his result, whatever that result is set to be.
Well, I mean, I hate to sound critical of Nelson Piquet, but he brought it upon himself, really. He hit Nigel Mansell off, as did Ayrton Senna, and both of them are paying for the price for it now, as Adrian Fernandez is attempting to overtake, I believe that's the Lotus there.
It is indeed. So that is the sole remaining Lotus. That is Martin Donnelly. As Piquet has got past Larini, that's probably into turn 1, I would think. Oh no, it's just before then actually, as Larini pits in. That's why. So Larini has pitted. So the Ligiers are running light here at Mexico. So that could be a very good tactical decision for them. Team boss Dave Goddard has said that this car is getting better. As into the pits comes the Tyrrell, it's Ricard Rydell. So they're going to use this as a practice stop for Jean Alesi. And the Tyrrell squad obviously hoping that this pit stop goes according to plan for them. But it's obviously a very tough one. 8.4 seconds for Rydell. Oh, that's Giacomelli.
Well, an impressive performance in the pre-qualifying race has resulted in nothing for the Lola car once again. and he's being hoisted out of the racetrack, and he certainly will not be very happy to come back to the pits, as is Mika Hakkinen in the wagon. Pit box. Let's see what kind of a pit stop he can get, Jake.
Yes, indeed. This is a critical stop. This is the first rotation, really, of the front runners coming in. So Hakkinen comes in, and he will go as far as lap 44, roughly. So that suggests a two-stop strategy for him as well, maybe. So perhaps it's only Cheever that's on a three-stopper in the front end of the field. PK, I'm still thinking it's interesting. Now, that is PK. So that tells you quite a lot, doesn't it? Hakkinen has rejoined behind Nelson Piquet. Now, that's going to stir up the arguments about Piquet's advantage gained through this race. So that could cement the potential for his exclusion. If he's going to get out ahead of Hakkinen, then he could well get out in front of Berger's McLaren as well.
Well, I think that throws a whole different scenario into the race, to be honest. But in my opinion, the penalty should be about the incident, not the result from what happened with the incident. That's how I've always looked on these things. That Senna comes into the pits as well, as he pulls it into his pit box now.
Alesi's in the pits as well, Will. So they're both in together. Alesi will go out ahead of Senna, no problem. That's 8.8 seconds for Senna. Now, where will they get out? That's critical. Alesi's about to lose the position to Nannini. Nannini's going to coax by, surely. But he's got to come into the pits as well. No, Alesi's out in front of Nannini. And Senna rejoins in clear air in 6th, ahead of Piquet and Hakkinen.
Well, just be wary that Ayrton Senna is close to some, I believe some lap cars might be coming up soon to the leaders of Berger. I'm not quite sure how far they are behind. But I do believe that Fernandez is only 5 seconds off the lap in this car, Jake. But as we see, I believe this is... I can't actually tell who that is, Jake.
This one is Capelli. So Capelli in the Leighton house has come into the pits. And he is basically upholding the honour for the team now as he gets out onto the circuit. As we ride on board with Patrese in 3rd behind the Ferrari of Alain Prost. Well, that gives them something to be happy about. Prost has actually got some decent mileage in this Grand Prix as he comes into the pits from P2.
Certainly got a lot more mileage than his teammate, I can tell you that now, Jake.
And Berger's in as well, so the leaders, all three in together. Berger, Prost, Patrese, they're all in together. Now this could be an interesting pit stop race.
Certainly going to be interesting who comes out ahead as they give a bit of a clean hold of the visor.
There is a Ferrari coming down the pit lane, and Prost is not going to beat Berger out of the pits. Patrese a little closer to them, so Berger will get on the throttle a little earlier than Prost. But, well, that was tight, but Prost is out in front of... Piquet's out! Piquet's out of the race, we're told. So Piquet is out of the race regardless. There he is, his car is coming. He's got a loose wheel, so that's fresh out of the pits. So... it makes no difference whatsoever to Nelson Piquet because he was disqualified from the race anyway. So I have a feeling that that protest will be upheld, but he'll still have to answer for his actions. So that could be an interesting one for Piquet. That might be ongoing.
Well, Nelson Piquet is certainly not going to have to worry about a penalty anymore, as they're not going to have to worry about the rest of the race. Obviously, he is still in it, but I doubt he would have got as high a position as his teammate Piquet. There's certainly a massive performance gap between the two drivers, whilst John Alesi is coming up to lap the Lotus of Martin Donnelly.
So Martin Donnelly is causing a little bit of an issue. Well, in certain times such as these, you know, you've had an incident that's put a driver out of the race and a retirement is not so sufficient to ban. Would there, not so sufficient to penalty, sorry, would there be consideration for another penalty potentially added to Piquet to address the balance of the situation? Very intriguing situation now.
I'm not entirely sure if they would give him another penalty to make up for the fact that the last penalty didn't apply. I think if they're going to give one penalty and obviously there's no way of removing that one, maybe if they were to protest it, there could be a 10-second penalty added on for the next race instead, perhaps, just to make sure that Piquet is properly punished for his actions. But well, the FIA is a complex book of rules. I struggled to get my words out there.
Oh, Senna's gone!
Senna.
My goodness, Ayrton Senna going off there. What on earth has happened to the McLaren? He spun it. He spun it there. Now that is terrible bad luck for Ayrton Senna. I'd love to see how he'd done that. He's just put the power on too early, look. That's exactly what happened. He put the power on too early in the hairpin. Desperately tried to bring the car back. But at this point, you're just fighting the car for grip. And it was a, well, very strange scenario for Ayrton Senna. I want to see it again one more time from on board with him. Look, he's just put the power on too early. Tried to catch the car. And it's got away from him.
Well, I'm not entirely sure if Senna's out of the race there, Jake, but I think the FIA won't be sweating anymore because they won't have the full force of Ron Dennis. Well,
Häkkinen's gone through, so the Brabham up to second. Is Senna going to be out of the race as well?
Well, I certainly know that Ron Dennis and Chris Buxton won't be bursting into the FIA office full force, is what I was trying to say, as the manager of McLaren didn't quite come to the top of my head for a second then, but I think Senna is getting the car going there, Jake.
Well, he's going the wrong way at the present moment. He's not actually on the race circuit, but he's trying to turn the car back to the right position, but he's off the circuit. So, a fascinating scenario here as Berger sets the fastest lap of the race, but Senna is just plunging down the table. Look, he's down into 14th, and he's going to be well out of the points here. The top 10 score points in 1990. But both of the drivers involved in that incident. Absolutely fascinating scenario. Well, Senna is down and out. No chance of him winning the Mexican Grand Prix today, and I think he realises it. But the big question is, will he have the motivation to keep going, or will he park it? Is that going to be game over for Senna? He knows, surely he knows, that a race victory is no longer possible.
Well, I believe that Ayrton Senna is, well, he's not really attempting to move there, is he, Jake? I think he's lost all motivation, to be honest. You can say that he's looking for a gap to go, but he needs to at least try and spin it on the grass while he's there. But he's not doing a very good job of spinning the car, as he's going to be lapped soon. Surely he's been sat there for a minute or so now, as he finally gets back on the race circuit.
He has been lapped. He has actually been lapped. You're right, Will. He has been lapped. So, Ayrton Senna rejoins, but we're not going to be seeing him at the front end of the field today, as Berger continues on his way in third position. But, well, fascinating scenario.
The 1988 World Champion really has not had a good season so far. His performance and some of his luck, actually, in terms of the car kit, has quite a bit of a laughing show in the paddock. I know that some of the team managers and myself were joking about that earlier. But Ayrton Senna, well, he really cements the season, to be honest. And if excuse me saying this, Jake, but if he stays with McLaren after this year, I'll be well and truly surprised.
Well, I have a feeling the race control officials have been a little bit hasty here in making their decision midway through a race, because obviously it's caused an interesting situation, and now they're going to have to backpedal. In fact, they have just backpedaled. The officials are still investigating the lap 1 incident. They are withdrawing their original decision. They're absolutely withdrawing for their original decision, and now they will continue with an agreeable solution. Well, that's fascinating. I wonder how this saga is going to continue to play out. As Patrese makes his move for Alain Prost in the Ferrari. So Patrese gets through, up into P4 for the Williams team. But, yeah, fascinating situation now. Senna has spun off and gone out of the running for victory. He is now a lap down on the main runners in the race. This is brilliant news for Ligier and Arrows, because all of these developments now put them in 7th place for Chiva and in 8th and 10th for the Arrows team. So they are absolutely loving life in Mexico.
Well, points being prizes at the end of the day, Jake, and they're certainly on course to get some good points and therefore some good prizes in the future if they can keep this up. Obviously, Arrows have been one of the fan favourite teams in terms of the underdog status recently. And now that they're pushing for more points, that's certainly going to make the crowd here at Mexico very happy, to say the least.
The last time a Mexican ended up in the points in the Mexican Grand Prix, it was Pedro Rodriguez, I do believe. So, a long, long time. But an absolutely fascinating situation now for Jean Alesi, who is on course for his second win in a row as Berger gets the move on Hakkinen. So he has just got the hurry up from McLaren because they obviously know that Senna's out of action and cannot win the Grand Prix. So now they need someone to go and get after the win past Alesi. And Berger, of course, is now a contender for the World Championship. He leads the title race, doesn't he, Berger? So a fascinating scenario. The big question is, though, if Berger is going to outclass Senna continually in 1990, which does seem to be the way the wind's blowing, what does Senna do? Because he's not been beaten by a teammate often. The last time he got beaten by a teammate was last year, admittedly, with Prost. But they fell out. And Prost is now racing elsewhere. If Berger was to continue to outperform Senna, then what on earth would Senna then choose to do moving into 1991?
Well, I know that. I'm not entirely sure if I should say this, but I know that Ayrton Senna has been seen creeping around the Williams garages in recent.
He has, hasn't he? Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure, obviously, whether that Topher Smith has been breaking some of the rules in terms of coaxing in drivers, but let's just say that I think they might have shared a few coffees recently in the Williams paddock. I think that Gerhard Berger is certainly well and truly McLaren's #1 for this season, despite the fact that Ayrton Senna is their golden boy. Gerhard Berger has been giving the results, and he's leading the World Championship by 11 points. And in all honesty, I don't think he's a contender, Jake. I think he's the champion in waiting at this rate.
It's a very good point. Here's Alesi working his way through the traffic. He's got Martini's Minardi to get through first, and then the Porsche of Paul Warwick, still going strong in this race in 14th place. If a few more cars drop out in the road in front of them, never mind Porsche qualifying for a Grand Prix, they may actually score a championship point, which would be fantastic news for Porsche here in Mexico. They're doing a grand job so far. Here's Brundle, still riding a good race in the Minardi up front. And the Mexican Grand Prix is definitely a good race for Gerhard Berger. It may not be for his teammate, but he's running in second place now as Alesi runs there in the lead of the race, having just got past the Porsche of Paul Warwick. But Alesi, he must be being courted now by a fair few teams, because Tyrrell obviously being a small operation in the past, but they are trying to coax Honda into making them their works outfit effort, and they're going up against the likes of Williams and McLaren and Leighton House and all these other teams that have Honda power. But there is a rule coming in for 1991 in that an engine manufacturer is only allowed to be in the back of 3 Formula 1 cars for 1991. So there won't be a mass exodus of teams dropping a certain engine and going for a Honda unit. It's only going to be available for 3 teams, but there will be a factory entrant for an engine supplier, and then 2 customer operations. So, for example, that would mean that if Ferrari were obviously going to give customer engines, they would give 2 units out to 2 other teams, and they would basically get a downgraded version of the factory engine. Now, any team can run as a factory engine supplier team if they want, as Martini gets the move on the inside of Paul Warwick. Has he got a problem? No. Just a nice clean overtaking move from Martini, who's on a lighter fuel load. So that explains that one. Martini and the Minardi on a lighter fuel load than the Porsche, so that could well sort itself out later. But, yeah, the way that 1991 is looking to shake up, there could be some more manufacturers coming in. They've clearly seen, Will, how Porsche have done. And BMW, we know, are going to make an appearance in 1991. Lamborghini is considering it. And there could be a few more manufacturers on the horizon. We've long talked about Honda returning as a works outfit.
Well, it's certainly going to be an interesting season to actually see who comes in from 1991. I was having this talk with Tom Cairns actually about some kind of engine. Stefano Modena heading off of the racetrack there. I'm not entirely sure if that's retirement, Jake, or yep. Indeed it is.
And it's a gearbox failure, that's why. So transmission failure at Stefano Modena in the Brabham. So their reliability is still being questioned at Brabham. But one thing that this does remind us of, and it's a subject that's come up a few times this year, Will, is the absolute chasm between Stefano Modena, who was judged to be quite a handy driver, and his new teammate Mika Hakkinen, who has won a Grand Prix this year.
Well, I can tell you from experience that Mika Hakkinen every team has been keeping an eye on Mika Hakkinen through his charge through the junior ranks and even his first races in Formula One. Certainly, a lot of teams have been courting him, asking him to come for a drink or sign a bit of paper. Certainly, a lot of teams indeed. But at the end of the day, Modena really have not been performing as his team want. And Brabham, in my opinion, has got a, well, essentially, he's going to put his finger out if he wants to remain in Formula One, because he's massively outperforming this year. But as I was saying about the engines earlier, Tom cares about, is there is a massive influx of new manufacturers coming in, which is going to make Formula One fantastic in the future if all of these engine manufacturers are coming up. The likes of Audi have possibly been 14 entrants.
That's true, yes.
I'm not entirely sure that the full legitimacy of those claims, Jake, but nonetheless they are exciting in terms of what it can provide to the sport.
Well, clearly the formula is now something that really works for the fans, and that's what gives people the impetus to come into the sport as a factory entrant, as Patrese has a go at Hakkinen for third position. And this is the thing, there's more racing to watch. You don't just get a Grand Prix, you also get... Oh! Brundle so nearly got in the way of Hakkinen there in the Brabham, who stormed to the left side. That was brave from Hakkinen, I have to say. Millimetres away from absolutely horrifying accidents there. But Hakkinen, he's proved himself to be quite feisty in these situations before. And, well, we know that Hakkinen's got a wild streak, that's for sure. As Patrese tries again on the Brabham, can't make it work. But, yeah, I was going to say that the sport is definitely now more attractive to teams coming in, even in pre-qualifying, because they know they've got a good chance as long as they show up on Sunday with a good race operation. They've got a good chance to get into the Grand Prix, and they want to make something of it.
Well, I think the pre-qualifying races as well, rather than just the ordinary qualifying sessions, as many of them have been dubbed in the past, allow teams to get more of the spotlight and, at the end of the day, a bit more of the money when you get on the camera. You see a hard boat.
And he's got an electrical problem. McLaren are not going to be winning the Mexican Grand Prix the way things are currently going, as Berger pits in, and that has given every single one of their rivals a massive sigh of relief, because now McLaren are going to drop down to 8th position, I think, behind Fernandez, which is more joy for the Mexicans, the home fans, as Berger exits the pits. Where's Fernandez? Ah, there he is behind, actually. In fact, that's Senna on the road in 19th and a lap down. So, big disaster for McLaren because Berger is now in 7th. Oh, that's Nannini! And Nannini's gone off there. So, can he get going again? Yes, he does, but I think Alboretto's going to get him. He does indeed, and Alboretto in the arrows is now up into 5th position. Great work from Michele Alboretto. The team are bouncing back.
5th place, certainly an achievement for the new squad, branded with the footwork brands now. They're a bit more of a cash injection for the Arrows team, and that's certainly been reflected in their race performance, especially around Mexico. They've got one driver in E5 and one driver in E8. And in, well, it's a fantastic opportunity to see these privateer teams coming in and showing the factory teams and the top dogs of the sport how it's done. And I think Arrows will be ones to watch out for in the future as Riccardo Patrese goes again on Mika Hakkinen and makes the move work there, Jake. Well, I think that's a good job from him.
Finally, Patrese gets the move he's been after all the way through the race. Hakkinen's not going to give up on it, but Riccardo Patrese is into 2nd place. So we've got a Tyrrell leading the way. The Williams is 2nd, the Brabham is 3rd, the Ferrari is 4th, the Benetton is 5th, because Nannini has got back through on Alboretto. Now, what's happened there with Alboretto? I didn't see him. Did he lose the position again? Yes, he did, to Alessandro Nannini. But we still have, get this for a statistic, 9 different teams in the top 9 places. That has not happened for a long time. We've got Alesi leading in the Tyrrell, Patrese in the Williams, Hakkinen in the Brabham, Prost in the Ferrari, Nannini's Benetton, Alboretto's Arrows, Berger's McLaren, Cheever's Ligier, and Capelli's Leighton House. 9 different teams in the top 9 places. That doesn't happen every day in Formula 1, Will.
It certainly does not. And, well, it's certainly good to see. Every team, or most teams, will be scoring a point, the ones that are currently leading in the top 10 in this Grand Prix. But at the end of the day, there can only be one winner. And that looks right now to be Jean Alesi. I'm hoping I didn't just jinx him there, because if I did, I'll certainly feel bad for the rest of time, to be honest, because Jean Alesi is just a really likeable guy, as is the team boss Sam Hall. He's been pushing this team to its absolute limits. He's been brought in as the team manager, and he's certainly making it pay off.
There's Gerhard Berger, former challenger to the Grand Prix win, falling down to 7th after an electrical problem. He's now trying to take out some time from this race. This is definitely turning into a nightmare Grand Prix scenario for McLaren. So race control are set to have a conversation with McLaren and Benetton after the race in regards to that incident on lap 1, which saw first Ayrton Senna and then Nelson Piquet drive into the back of Nigel Mansell in the first lap, which eventually saw the Ferrari driver out of the race. Obviously, the Ferrari fans are not going to be very happy about that, because with Prost in 4th position, Mansell was ahead of Prost on the grid, so they could have had a Ferrari on the podium by now. I know there's still 30 laps to go, but obviously the power and influence of Ferrari is strong in Formula 1, and there's no getting around it. So that's definitely something that they will have to consider as they head into the closing stages of the day here in Mexico. Alesi just a little bit of a lock-up there. We're on lap 40, and he's got very low fuel in the car, but this is all on schedule for the Red Bull Tyrrell as he continues on his way. And the way that the Tyrrell is going, I mean, they're a very small outfit, Tyrrell, but they have plenty of expertise. They've been Grand Prix racing for over 30 years. They do know what they're doing. Over 20 years, I should say. Sorry, my maths is not very good. And a great performance thus far from Jean Alesi and the whole team. With their Swedish driver, Rickard Rydell, just outside the points now. He made a good start to the season, but I think the reality is starting to set in a little bit there for their Swedish charge, and it wouldn't surprise me if they started to look at a potential front runner alongside Jean Alesi for 1991. Here's Michele Alboreto. And is he in trouble? Because that was a bit of a weird moment there at Peralta. No, he's still going. P6 is still his for the moment, as Nannini is starting to get away from him there in the Benetton. There he is, stretching out his advantage in 5th place. But it's a good run for Alboreto and the Arrows team. I think the fans will be delighted if they can get a top 6 finish today, even if it isn't Fernandez who gets it. And there is Martin Donnelly still plugging on. Tough part of the race coming up now, Will, but it does look like we've got a race on for 2nd place between Patrese, Hakkinen and Alain Prost in the Ferrari of all people.
Well, they're extremely close on circuit, aren't they? And, well, I don't know about you, Jake, but I'm certainly feeling very cold in the commentary box right now. I'm absolutely freezing. So if we can get some action just to get a bit more excitement in the room, and then maybe we can start to warm up this commentary box and I can get out the hoodie I'm wearing right now, because, well, although this race is very exciting, the commentary box is fleeting.
To be fair, it isn't the warmest part of the season in Mexico. It's great for us, but it gets a lot hotter than this in the summertime of Mexico. So we're battling away down the main straight again. Patrese, Hakkinen, Prost. And about 6 seconds behind them is Nannini in the Benetton. I think Chris Cavani and the whole Ferrari team, the whole Ferrari pit wall, have still got their fingers crossed that this is the race. Prost comes home and gets a smile on his face when he comes out of the car. But the less said about that, the better. You know what jinxes are like, and Ferrari really want to get their car home to the finish to get some points on the board. As the Williams, the Brabham, and now the Ferrari have all managed to lap Martin Donnelly's Lotus. Fascinating how from one race to the next, Lotus have been very competitive, and then all of a sudden, they're way off the pace in the midfield and a lap adrift. But that's the way it goes in the world of Formula 1. One race, your car works brilliantly. Another race, it really doesn't. And into the pits comes Alesi then. So Alesi from the lead makes his pit stop. Now this is the crucial pit stop that could win him the Mexican Grand Prix. And he's fueling to the end.
Hopefully it'll be a good, clean stop for the Tyrrell team now. As we look to see, it's a 9.6, so a bit slow, but at the end of the day, they need to take the pit stop cautiously in order to make sure that there's no issues with any wheel nuts or fuel problems that we've seen so many times in the past. But as earlier with Nelson Piquet, if a driver's tyre is non properly, they won't be able to finish the race, and he's come out in P2.
Yes, indeed.
He had the gap that they needed, and they managed to get it.
Nannini's boxed as well, so Nannini has decided to come into the pits in the Benetton. Now, Patrese has taken the lead, but let's not forget that he still needs to make a pit stop. He's going to take a few laps to do it, but Alesi is going to be on a heavier fuel load, but on fresher tyres. And at Mexico, that will definitely help him out, with Häkkinen there in third position. But Alesi has been building this gap quite smartly, but this is probably not where he wanted to get out. He probably wanted to beat the Williams out of the pits. So the Williams is now stuck behind the Lola. This is not going to help. And that's Bernard. No, sorry, that's Suzuki, causing a real problem for the leader. So Patrese held up big time. And now Alesi and Häkkinen are getting closer. This isn't just a problem for the victory. This is also a problem for second place, because now Alesi's got to run. And up the inside, and Patrese's gone wide. Ooh. Goodness me. Alesi forces Patrese wide and gets the lead on the road as Häkkinen pits in. But that was so close to going off the racetrack for Patrese. How did he save it? Let's have a look again. Oh, so close, Will. So close to a big accident.
I thought he was going into the wall there. Can I just show, really show the strategical masterclass that Brabham presented? If they pitted Mika Häkkinen in, knowing that Patrese will be slower on this lap, especially with the exit of that corner, and if Häkkinen can get out in clean air as Patrese gets held up, Häkkinen might be on to actually undercut the Williams driver here. So Häkkinen really doing a good job taking advantage of that. But what a move from Jean Alesi. Aggressive but there as he now gets past the Lola of Suzuki.
And there you get to see one of the reasons why the fans love Jean Alesi so much, because he didn't need to do that, did he? He could have just sat behind Patrese, but no, he wanted to get him on the race circuit, and with a death-defying move, manages to pull off an incredible overtake into the Peralta, which is not the easiest overtaking place on the circuit. Here's Fernandez. This will make the fans rock if he can get past Rydell, which he cannot at this moment in time. So he's got to wait for his opportunity as Gujamin pits in from P10. So Rydell and Fernandez take over that battle for the points as Prost manages to get out of the way of Patrese, who comes into the pits. I wondered if Prost had a problem there, but no. He comes out of the final turn and is now in second place because Patrese is pitting. Now, I've got a feeling, Will, that you were right about Häkkinen. I think he's going to jump Patrese.
I certainly get that feeling that there is going to be a change in position for second now. Ricardo Patrese comes out the pits, a good pit stop for him, but let's just see how Mika Häkkinen is done. He's coming through the final corner now, Jay, as he bursts onto the pit straight. I'm not entirely sure if he's actually managed to do it there.
Well, out onto the circuit goes Patrese, and Häkkinen has just managed it. He has just jumped the Williams. Goodness me, that's a car length or so in difference in terms of raw speed. And Häkkinen has jumped Patrese, so the Brabham is now in net second position.
Well, a fantastic job from Mika Häkkinen there as he snatches provisional P2 from Patrese. And just pointing out earlier, you said that Jean Alesi was didn't need to overtake him there, as he makes the exact same move to lap the Porsche of Warwick there. And but nonetheless, Alesi is now an entire pit stop and a bit more ahead of the drivers behind him. So if there's any form of issue or any reason to make a pit stop, Alesi can come into the pits and still have a major chance of getting ahead out of his rivals. He could do a 3-stop right now and he'd still get out ahead of Mika Häkkinen, as we look to see how Alain Prost will do in his battle with the other two drivers. Prost may be on for a podium here.
He's got a good chance. He's in second place at the moment. Berger still has to pit behind him, and then he'll get out of the pits again around the Häkkinen Patrese mark, but I think they've left it a little bit too long to bring him in. That's going to be the critical problem. Now hang on. McLaren have been tactical. When he had that electrical problem, they fueled him heavy. They fueled Berger heavy. So he's now going to the end of the race. I had forgotten that Berger had his electrical problem, but they decided to fill his tank to the brim. Now, the problem Berger's going to have is, yes, he'll have track position. Yes, he'll have second on the road, but his tyres are going to be shot by the end of this race, and the likes of Hakkinen, Patrese and Prost will surely catch him up again. There's no way he's going to be able to maintain that kind of grip, as into the pits comes Prost.
Well, with brand new tyres in the pre-qualifying race, Roland Ratzenberger was able to snatch P8, if my memory serves me correctly, Jake, and well, the new tyres can realistically be the be-all or end-all of your chances in a Grand Prix. He's got the fuel he needs to go till the end, but whether he's got the pace on the rubber he's wearing is, well, that's just, we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
So Berger goes through into second place. Senna is catching Martini. He's just got past Rydell's Tyrrell. Hakkinen third, Patrese fourth, Prost fifth. That's how it goes. But Patrese's getting back in on Hakkinen, and he goes through into the first corner and takes the place. Now, this is critical. If these two keep battling, Prost is on fresh tyres, so he will be on them like a ton of bricks. And Berger, a few seconds up the road, 5 seconds ahead of this battle, is on very old tyres, still with a heavy fuel load. Second place is very much up for grabs here.
We just have to remember as well the reliability factor of this Grand Prix. At any moment, one of these drivers could find themselves with an engine failure or an oil leak, which takes them out, as we've seen so many times at Mexico with the high altitude of this circuit. We saw it in the pre-qualifying race. We've seen it in the Grand Prix. So, well, realistically, Gerhard Berger just has to cruise to the finish, and it's another lot of points for his championship fight.
There goes Senna into the pits for his final pit stop, but he's down in 15th after his earlier spin, which, of course, took him a lap to get back onto the circuit again. It's an embarrassing day at the office for Ayrton Senna, but the McLaren ethos is just keep going, because you don't know how many cars are going to fall off at the end of the race. We saw in the pre-qualifying race, didn't we, just how many cars dropped out in the closing few laps. So from the McLaren point of view, he could still bag some points here if he just keeps going. I mean, he's going to rejoin in dead last from his pit stop, but he's Ayrton Senna. He's not going to settle for that, and Hakkinen's got a good run now on Patrese as they lap a back marker. That was Larini's Ligier. So now there's a chance for Hakkinen to get back on terms with Patrese, but Prost isn't far away. There he is in the Ferrari, and he's got the freshest tyres of these four drivers battling for second place. Berger, he's the one in biggest trouble because he's got a heavy fuel load. After his electrical problem, they decided to fill him to the brim. Can he handle it, though, on those tyres?
Alesi's in the pits.
Alesi's in the pits. What's going on there? Now, Alesi's had his pit stops, so what's gone on? Oh, he's damaged his front wing by the look of it. Goodness me, so Alesi's had a problem to damage the front wing. So, now we're going to see if Will Knight was correct in his prediction. Is he going to be able to come into the pits and come back out again? But Alesi has broken his front wing. Now, we don't know where that's happened. We missed it out on circuit, but Alesi has damaged the front wing. Now, Alesi loses the lead. Berger takes the lead of the Grand Prix. So Berger leads, Patrese second, Hakkinen third, Prost fourth, Alesi's down to fifth. So, the race really is on now.
I did say earlier that if I jinxed Jean Alesi, then I would feel bad for the rest of the time. And I think coming a long run now, he's fallen down to P5. He's got 4 drivers to overtake in about, what would you say there, Jake?
20 laps.
6 to 7 seconds to make up in 20 laps.
Well, that's more than doable, and he's proven today that he's got a fast car underneath his right foot, but has he got the patience, the tenacity, the strength of character to deal with this situation as Rydell very nearly gets in the way of Patrese there? And Patrese in the Williams has now got his sights firmly set on Berger up front, and the team will have told him. Alesi in the pits. This game is now firmly on because you're only 4 seconds behind Berger, and Berger's got a heavy fuel load. Well, the same fuel load now as these guys, as Hakkinen makes his bid to lap Rydell, gets through, drifts wide. Prost comes around the outside of it, and now Alesi's trying to get on the inside of Alain Prost. Prost and Alesi go around the outside of Rydell. That got pretty scary, and now Alesi's got a run on Alain Prost in the Ferrari, and he's coming round the outside of him. Alesi's got through. Alesi into P4 past Prost. Look at the difference in horsepower between the Honda engine and the Ferrari engine, but Alesi's being held up by his own teammate. This is definitely not good news. Now he splits the two, so Prost gets balked, but now Alesi is through into 4th place. That's 1 down, 3 to go.
When I woke up this morning, I certainly did not think that I would be watching a 5-car fight for the lead of this race, and even Alain Prost battling for the lead of this Grand Prix. It's a fantastic job from all the drivers in the top 5, and well, you can really just hope that John Lacey can fight back so we can see a battle with Riccardo Patrese. Otherwise, Copa Smith will never shut up about this in his life if he's got an easy victory on his hands.
And don't forget the man we just looked at, Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton. He's not out of the woods for this as well either, because he's only 3 seconds behind Prost in the Ferrari. So Nannini has a genuine crack at this as well now.
Hello, Will. I would just like to thank you for your curse to Jean Lacey. Wonderful curse there.
If you noticed, I have cursed Topher as well there for you in order to make it a close fight, so it's not over just yet.
Well, yes, this is true, but I will also acknowledge that Lacey in every single race so
Oh,
far,
Prost has spun it! Sorry, Prost has spun! Prost has spun! Absolutely unbelievable. Prost has spun off of the first corner. Now, we don't know what the reason for that is, but Prost was battling away for position. He hadn't quite got close to Jean Lacey, so we need to see what happened to Prost. He's literally just overcooked it into the first corner, Will.
First for everything, Alain Prost has spun in this Grand Prix. He's thrown away his chances of the lead. First time a team manager has ever broken into the commentary box and yelled at a commentator in Formula 1 history.
Oh, I'm afraid it's not. I'm afraid it's not. It's happened before in the RRML, but... Alain Prost has spun it at turn 1. Now, fortunately, he's got it... Well, I say he's got it going. He very nearly doesn't, but he's got it going certainly quicker than Senna did. So Ferrari is still on for some points, but Prost rejoins in 8th position. That is such a disaster for Alain Prost. That now means it is a 4-way scrap for victory as Prost in the Ferrari throws away the chance of a victory.
Well, the two championship leaders from last year, the team that's fighting out at McLaren. Jean Lacey now tries to go up the inside of Mika Häkkinen there, not making it work, but will have a good run onto the main straight. He's going to try and make the move done. But both of the leaders from last season, 1989, have had a catastrophic season now. Patrese getting ever closer to the leader of this race, Gerhard Berger. Now, as Jean Lacey is going to try and go down the inside of Mika Häkkinen. Will he make it work? Yes, he does. The Tyrrell makes it into P3. And Jake, fantastic show from Jean Lacey to himself.
Whoops, that's Gugelmin. What's happened to Mauricio Gugelmin? For the second time today, he's made a mistake. Let's see how he did it. He's come down the short stretch on the far side. This is just in front of the leaders, in fact. There's Berger in the background. And Gugelmin's, I think, made the same mistake that Brundle did. Yeah, he's just locked up in the right-hander, hit the barrier, rejoined, and it looks as though he's got away with it, actually. He hasn't even lost a place. So, fortunate there, but Berger, look how quickly Patrese is catching him. Look, the gap is down to 1.8 seconds. This is what I was talking about. The Williams is the better car now because the McLaren has got such old tyres that the Williams is now the car to have. Lacey, however, is the fastest car on circuit. He's got past Häkkinen. He's absolutely dropped him. So this is going to be an amazing end to the race.
Well, Patrese, I was certainly not thinking that he was going to win at the start of the race. I thought it was going to be Boots and Lacey, but they have two completely different drivers fighting it out. And if Gerhard Berger can keep this win, he can extend his championship lead even further from the 11 points we see it right now. And the man behind him, Warwick, will not score any points no matter what. So, if you look at it, Gerhard Berger can take a whole race lead ahead of second place in the standings as Ayrton Senna tries to go up the inside of Aguri Suzuki, but Suzuki holding it really well there.
Yeah, this is not a great race for Ayrton Senna. He's just trying to make something out of this race, even if that's only the fastest lap, because you do score a point, of course, for getting the fastest lap of the race. So he's trying desperately to salvage something from his dismal Mexican Grand Prix race weekend. We're on board with Patrese. That's the man who could deny him victory, Gerhard Berger. But the man behind him is catching him. There's Jean Lacey. So we've got a 3-way scrap for victory.
Jean Lacey has also caught by 1.4 seconds that lap, Jake. I've been keeping an eye on the timings, and he's really closing in on Patrese there.
A fascinating battle. Berger, Patrese, Lacey. Häkkinen is not out of this yet in the Brabham either. And Nannini is only 6 seconds back in 5th. We've got Chiva in the Ligier in P6. Alboreto Zaros is 7th. Prost in the Ferrari is now recovering in 8th place, but it's all gone wrong for him. 9th is Fernandez in the Arrows. 10th is Gugelmin in the Leighton House. Now, if I were Ferrari at this point, I would pit Prost and rejoin him in 9th place, because he can put him on a fresh set of tyres. He could make a massive amount of ground in the closing stages of this race. He'll only lose 1 place, but he'll be on so much better tyres than the guys around him. He's got a good chance to make up some places as Senna battles with Martin Donnelly down the main straight, a lap down from the race victory. It doesn't quite seem right somehow, but Senna having thrown away his race earlier on today with a mistake. I wonder if how much of that was just driver error and how much of that was communication with the team. But look, we've got Patrese now just half a second roughly in front of Alesi. There he is. Look, the Tyrrell has caught right up to the Williams. We could have a magnificent battle on the home straight here, Will.
Samples claims that I have disgraced his driver may not be correct just yet in the 1990 Grand Prix. But nonetheless, Jean Alesi needs to make it work around the Williams. These two absolute giants of Formula One. Tyrrell versus Williams. As Alesi
He's done it again!
Peraltada. A fantastic move for beating the exact same move on the exact same driver. And he's now back in P2. As we take a look at the replay once again, just swooping up the inside there, Jake.
The man has nerves of steel. There's no two ways about it. Jean Alesi is becoming the firecracker of the grid. He's absolutely on it. And now he's 7/10 of a second back from Gerhard Berger, who has got very old tyres. There's nothing, surely, that Berger can do to thwart Jean Alesi's attack. But what this proves is that Alesi, on an accidental 3-stop strategy, still has what it takes to take it to the big guns. He is the find of the season without any shadow of a doubt. And now he's going to make mincemeat of Berger down into the braking zone. Surely, Alesi tries, Berger defends. Berger is not going to give away the victory if he can have any say in the matter. And that's going to give Patrese another run at him. But Alesi is doing everything he can to pressure the McLaren and get back into the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix of 1990. Surely on the run to Peralta, he knows he can do it now because he's done it a few times to make the overtaking move on the inside line as Fernandez pits in from 9th position. I'm fairly sure that is, with his 3-stop strategy, correct. But out of the final couple of corners, down towards the Peralta. Surely this is where Alesi can make his bid for Berger. He tries to get the move, comes up the inside again. Boom! Thank you and good night. He takes the lead again.
I think we found our driver of the day here, Jake. If you're asking me, he's done a fantastic job in the Grand Prix throughout the season. And in all honesty, if he can keep this up, he could even be a dark horse in this championship.
And Patrese's got Berger. Sorry, Will. Patrese's got Berger. So Patrese in the Williams has got past Berger's McLaren as well. What an absolutely thrilling race. We've had Berger go from 1st to 3rd in the space of 1 straight.
Indeed, he has got ahead of Gerhard Berger. Berger falling down very slowly and quite possibly could be overtaken by Mika Hakkinen in the coming laps. He's only 4 seconds behind him, if my maths is correct there. Maybe even 4.6. But, well, I really don't know what to say with that move from Jean Alesi and Riccardo Patrese. They're still battling for the lead of this race. It is not over. They need to calm down to make sure that these engines can go to the end. Otherwise, all of this battling, all of this tension that they're providing with the crowd and with us as commentators will be for nothing. As we look at Gerhard Berger once again, Jake.
Oh!
Nope, that is a footwork they're getting past him there, Jake.
Well, that just shows you how weak Berger's tyres are. They need to pit him. They need to pit Berger now because the tyres can't hack it. Look, he's lost 3 seconds to Alesi in a single lap and he's been unlapped by an Arrows. There's no way that Berger can go the distance on these tyres as Chiva runs around the outside of Senna in the draft behind Alboreto. Well, that's a moment he'll remember forever and ever as Senna on the comeback drive is now going to try and make his bid to go up alongside Eddie Chiva and get back past him, which he does. That's not going to do him any favours in the Ligier camp. They're not going to be too happy about him losing ground to Alboreto as Brundle now gets on the inside of Suzuki. That is for position as the Minardi gets through into 18th place. Still, we've only got 7 retirements from the Grand Prix. Stefano Modena was the last retirement. That seems like a million years ago. Piquet out, Giacomelli out, Boutsen out from the lead, of course. Derek Warwick in the Lotus out. Menu in the Porsche having to take avoiding action from Giacomelli, and he crashed. And then Mansell on the very first lap of the Grand Prix pitched off first by Senna, who broke the rear wing, and then by Piquet, who rammed him off the racetrack.
Well, the fact that we've only got a few retirements, we've got less retirements in the pre-qualifying race, I can tell you that. As Adrian Fernandez is going to attempt to get past Crazy there.
And he has!
Fantastic move from Fernandez. I can hear the Mexican crowd, well, going from here, to be honest. They are absolutely screaming at this driver and how he is performing in that Arrows car. Surely, at this current rate, he'll be catching the likes of Prost and Cheever.
I think we've got an issue with Cheever. He's in the pits. Oh, he's just gone very long on the 3-stop strategy as Eddie Cheever. So that should put Prost into 7th. It does. So Alain Prost in the Ferrari back up into P7 as Senna gets back on the inside of Alboreto. And, well, that's Donnelly still dueling away with the Leighton House. Absolutely fabulous battle so far. But Cheever is going to rejoin, I think, in front of Gugelmin. But don't count on it because it's going to be close between those two when they come off the pits. And that's Warwick in the Porsche. Oh, very nearly chopping across the... Oh, he's been nerfed there by Nannini. Nannini getting frustrated, sat behind the Porsche. And Nannini actually barged him out of the way. Did you see that?
I did indeed. And, well, if you're frustrated with someone, that's not exactly the best way to go about it. Does cut across him in some form. In all honesty, I think the Porsche might have not left enough space there, to be honest, Jake.
Well, we'll have a look again. What I'd love to see is the camera rear facing. So I'll have a look. Here's Warwick. Look, he's locked up. So Warwick locks up. He pulls right back across the Benetton. Nannini's not happy with it, and bang! He just puts his right front wheel in between. Warwick is lucky to keep that going, to be brutally honest. But yeah, frustration from the Italian at Paul Warwick, getting him out of the way. Goodness me.
Yeah, not the best of performance from either of the drivers there. Frustration or mistakes, neither are really. Well, I think both the drivers are at fault there, to be honest, Jake, and whatever you say. They're both still lucky to be in the race, to be honest.
Wow. It just goes to show that there are incidents all the way through the field. And we are told that Nannini and Paul Warwick are under investigation now. So they are being investigated. We don't know whether that will lead to anything because both drivers kept going without damage. But there's definitely an investigation going on to that one because you can't deny the fact that Nannini did actually nudge him off the circuit there, or certainly nudged him wide in order to get through on the inside line. This is an absolutely fascinating situation now. Here's Berger. Look at the deficit that Berger has lost now. 6.5 seconds. And Hakkinen is making mincemeat of him. Nannini now makes exactly the same mistake in exactly the same place that Paul Warwick did. So, fascinating scenario there. Here's Berger, still trying to hang on to this third place. But look in the background. There's Hakkinen's Brabham. So Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham, closing up now on Gerhard Berger as they come off the final turn and onto the home straight once again. Here's Fernandez going wheel to wheel with Gugelmin. Now this is for the final couple of points. Listen to the crowd. They're on their feet now for Fernandez. They really want him to get into the 9th position place that he's aiming for. He's going to get through on the inside. Fernandez takes 9th and Mexico goes bananas.
Well, Fernandez is really showing himself to be a fantastic driver, pushing that Arrows to its limit in his home Grand Prix. He's certainly showing the crowd what a Mexican driver can do, and he can keep that performance up for the rest of the season. He might be something to look out for 1991.
He's a very highly rated racer, is Adrian Fernandez. Did very well in the junior single-seater ranks in North America. So he's definitely one to watch out for as Senna makes the bid. And this is Rydell. Rydell is slowing. Rydell's got a puncture. So Rydell in the Tyrrell's got a puncture. I don't think he's going to make that back to the pits. Indeed, he does not. So Ricard Rydell, I'm afraid to say, is out of the Mexican Grand Prix.
Oh, well, you've got cheering on one side of the Tyrrell garage and absolute heartbreak on the other and he'll probably tell you that the pit lane of the pit crew of Ricardo Rydell probably packed their bags ages ago in terms of how much they've been outperformed today by the other side of the garage. But nonetheless, Michele Alvaretto doing a fantastic job, just like his teammate here. That Arrows car really is suited to this circuit, Jake.
Yeah, the Arrows really has got itself together for this race, as Donnelly and Capelli are getting frustrated by the works Porsche of Paul Warwick. Welcome back to Grand Prix Racing Porsche, as Warwick is putting on a good show here with the Leighton and the Lotus, and they're going to go side by side. Are they going to go 3 wide down the straight? Pretty much, as they battle away there. So it's the Leighton that gets ahead of the Lotus and the Porsche. But a great little duel. There's Alain Prost in the Ferrari, still recovering in 7th place. So a very tough situation. But the battle is raging.
I believe we've got 8 laps remaining, Jake, as well, for Jean Alesi to try and keep the car on the road. As we see, but my main priority right now is seeing if Mika Häkkinen can catch and pass Gerhard Berger. Because if he doesn't, for whatever reason, manage to catch Berger's tyres suddenly turn back on for whatever reason, we will see an all-British team lineup on the podium.
It's very possible. Certainly very
Tyrrell,
possible.
Williams and McLaren.
And if they don't manage it, Brabham are in 4th place. And if they don't manage it, Benetton are in 5th. And if they don't manage it, Arrows are in 6th, I've just suddenly realised. So yeah, it's a great day for the British teams. Not a great day for Ferrari. They're in 7th place only, but it's certainly a better day than they have had thus far this year. So it's not a bad day at the office, considering for Ferrari. Here's Häkkinen charging his way up the inside of Gugelmin, who is not giving Häkkinen a massive amount of space. But Häkkinen, I was going to say Häkkinen gets through anyway, but Gugelmin trying to assert himself. Häkkinen does eventually get through. Now, this man is certainly the favourite for getting that 3rd position on the podium now. Alesi leads. Patrese 2nd. Berger is 3rd for the moment, but those tyres must be absolutely dead. And I can't believe McLaren didn't consider changing tyres again, because now Berger is almost certainly in jeopardy of losing that 3rd place on the podium. But this race, I mean, yes, last time out Alesi did win his maiden Grand Prix. He was 2nd to Senna for the entirety of the last stint until Senna's engine blew on the final lap. So cruel, the way that win was taken away from Senna. But Alesi to take the win in the final tour. This time, you have to argue, Will, that Alesi has not been gifted this win. He has rolled his sleeves up and totally earned it on his own merit.
Well, if you look at it, the maiden win of Jean Alesi is followed by the maiden punch in the face to the rest of the drivers. He has absolutely dominated in a car which, for much of the season, hasn't looked to be the best on the grid. It hasn't looked to be the fastest, but it's certainly the most reliable. Tyrrell has produced a machine which can go the distance every time, as it is right now, and Jean Alesi is really taking advantage of that and pushing it to its limits around the circuit of Mexico.
Wow, this is certainly producing one of the races of the season, but then we say that every time we come to play. We had 5 different race winners in the first 5 races. Gerhard Berger winning in Phoenix at the first race. Nelson Piquet taking the win on home soil in Brazil for Benetton. Then, out of thin air, Mika Häkkinen became the youngest ever Grand Prix winner for Brabham at Imola. The 3rd race of the season. Then in race 4, it was Ayrton Senna who finally got the job done at Monaco. And then last time out, it was going to be Senna 2 in a row, but Alesi got the win by keeping going when Senna could not. Now we've got the battle between Nannini and Senna. Now this is interesting. Nannini running in P5. Senna is a lap down. Senna is trying to unlap himself here. So this is going to be a fascinating scenario. But Senna runs in P12 now, trying to catch up to Nicola Larini. But the battle is still going strong as the racing continues for Gerhard Berger. But the battle continues on its way. Here's Alesi, 7 seconds clear of Riccardo Patrese. He really has made this Mexican Grand Prix his own. And he comes up to the end of lap 64. And he will win his 2nd race of the season. And this time, it won't be a gift-wrapped victory. It will be well and truly fought for. 5 laps to go for the Tyrrell of Sam Hall's boy, John Alesi.
And as well as that, as well as the possible win for John Lacey as it stands, Alain Prost, and it's weird to say this considering he is the reigning world champion, is on course to finish his first Grand Prix of the season. He's retired in every single race so far this year. He's arguably, well, just like the last Ferrari driver to win the World Championship. Obviously, Prost didn't win his World Championship with the Scuderia, but nonetheless, he is driving for them now. Jody Scheckter, the worst ever championship season to follow a winning championship. Alain Prost might just be on his way to equal that, as this right now, as he overtakes the footwork of Michele Alboreto for P6. I'm not entirely sure how many points that is, Jake, but certainly not the number of points that Prost would have been wanting when he signed with Ferrari last year.
No, indeed. It's only worth 5, but it's certainly worth more than 1989. 6th place would only net you 1 point. But the new point system for 1990 has given Prost a bit of a reprieve here. And he runs in 6th position, looking for 5 championship points. Now, here's Patrese. He's looking good for 2nd place in the Mexican Grand Prix. And there is Lacey lapping Martin Donnelly in the Lotus. Lotus really have been conspicuous by their absence here in Mexico. They've not really put on a great show from their point of view. So, a very tricky scenario. Here's Berger, getting a good run down the straight into the first corner. So, Berger is running well, having had a very solid momentum to carry into this 6th race of the season. The championship leader up to this point, of course, but now he has got major pressure from the young French charge, Jean Alesi, who is set to take his 2nd win of the season. He will not lose the lead of the championship this time, Gerhard Berger. He's had a win, 3 seconds, and a disqualification, if you remember, because he was excluded at Monaco. Senna's in trouble! Senna's in trouble! Gearbox is gone! So he's worked so hard to get himself back. Maybe that was the reason for the spin in the first place. But Ayrton Senna's gearbox is gone. And that's an embarrassing moment for the 1988 world champion, as his long rival from last year, Alain Prost, passes the scene. And Ayrton Senna is out of the Mexican Grand Prix. Yet again, he fails to finish.
Is it just me there, Jake? Or did Senna just sort of give up for a second then and put his car in the wall? I'm not entirely sure whether that was to do with the gearbox issue, but he certainly did not look happy as he pulled the car off. Definitely some contact with the tyre barrier there, as we've got 3 laps remaining. And as I reiterated earlier, I do not see Ayrton Senna staying with McLaren for 1991.
Well, it's a very tragic fight for the title, isn't it? 6 races, and he has technically failed to finish 5 times. He was gifted 10th place last time out at Montreal, but he had the win in his pocket. Every time he has finished the race, he has won it. But that's only happened once, and that was at Monaco. So Senna very much backs to the wall in 1990. And will he consider that the dream is dead with McLaren? He's been talking to other teams. We saw him in testing at Silverstone recently. And Adrian Fernandez does not want to throw away a points finish. He's in 9th place. He just puff of smoke in the S's there. He cannot afford to lose face on home turf. As Jean Alesi goes into lap 68 of 69. Is it going to be 2 wins in a row for Tyrrell? And the first time that they've won 2 races in a single season, I think, since 1973. If memory serves me right. I'm sure the statisticians will go and look that one up. But they hadn't won a race since 1983. I'm fairly sure this will be their first season where they've won twice since 1973. But a fabulous, fabulous moment for the Tyrrell team incoming as Alain Prost continues on his way in 6th place. Now, he's on fresher tyres than Nannini, I think. So has he got the potential to catch the Benetton and steal the position? Häkkinen's got past Berger. Häkkinen's got past Berger. I'm fairly sure that was at turn 1. No, it was even before that. I think he got him at Peralta, would you believe? So Häkkinen has stolen the final place on the podium away from McLaren, Will.
Well, I did predict that he would be pushing the McLaren to its absolute limits, and, well, if I were McLaren right now, I would certainly be rethinking my strategy department, because they could and should have pulled Gerhard Berger into the pits, but failed to do so, and that has left them in P4. Nonetheless, it will mean that Gerhard Berger does score good points and does extend his championship lead. It is not going to be for nothing this Grand Prix, but it could have been so much more if they just presented him with a winning strategy.
And it's also finally going to give the Williams team a podium for the first time since the San Marino Grand Prix when they finished third. So it'll be their best result of the season too for Williams. A second place will be definitely very much deserved for the Williams team. And Hakkinen to the pits! Hakkinen to the pits! He's got a brake problem! I don't believe it! The Brabham's going to lose the podium! And it's going to go back to Berger!
I have well and truly just jinxed the entire Brabham team. I think McLaren are now laughing at me, to be honest.
Well,
that's very sick.
Disaster for you and Gale and the Brabham team. Hakkinen falls to 8th place. Cheever's going to go past the pits, and Hakkinen will rejoin in 8th position. That is a disaster for the team, who lose the podium on the final lap of the Mexican Grand Prix. This is how painful the Retro Racing Managers League can be, and the Brabham is done. But here comes Jean Alesi. This time they've won it valiantly from the front. Jean Alesi wins the 1990 Mexican Grand Prix in magnificent style. His second win in Formula One. Tyrrell's second win in a row. And the first time, I'm sure, that they have won 2 Grand Prix in a row for over a decade. Patrese is second for Williams. And the Fernandez, listen to the crowd. 9th place for Fernandez. 2 points on the board for the young Mexican as Berger comes home in 3rd. He is the luckiest man in the sport. There's no two ways about it. And we're going to get Nannini in 4th position. The fans are also on their feet because Prost in the Ferrari is going to complete a Grand Prix for the first time this year. Ferrari bags 6 valuable Constructors' Championship points.
I mean, it's been a tough season for Chris Cabernet and the Ferrari team as a whole. But some points on the board now for Alain Prost will certainly raise the spirits and the morale at Maranello, and hopefully they can come back fighting. We need Ferrari at the top of this championship, fighting it with the rest of the teams. And unfortunately, where they are right now is just not good enough for them or us, to be honest with you. But I know that the team principal, Chris Cabernet, is doing everything he can in order to help the Scuderia fight back to where they're supposed to be.
Well, that is the first time this year that a McLaren has not been first or second. Jean Alesi comes home in the Tyrrell in victory. Riccardo Patrese is second in the Williams. Berger is 3rd for McLaren. Nannini 4th for Benetton. Alain Prost, despite that spin, salvages 5th place, his first finish of the season. Alboreto in 6th place, ahead of Hakkinen, cruelly robbed in the Brabham, but he did steal 7th back from Cheever on the final lap. Fernandez gets 9th. Gugelmin gets 10th, and those are the only points scorers. Senna is technically classified as a finisher, down in 18th place, despite retiring with 4 laps to go. But Rydell, Modena, Piquet, Giacomelli, Boutsen, Warwick, Menu and Mansell did not finish, and the latter one, Nigel Mansell, in controversial circumstances. An engine failure for Boutsen, robbing him of what could have been a potential victory for Williams. The fastest lap of the race goes to Gerhard Berger, fractions of a second quicker than Jean Alesi's Tyrrell. But what a hero the Frenchman has become here in Mexico. 2 wins in a row, and certainly now you have to say, Will, potentially a title contender.
Certainly a title contender as, he's outscored the championship leader of Gerhard Berger, although Berger did manage to get that crucial fastest lap point. Alesi is right on the back of him, as he has been throughout the last 2 races, or in literal terms, in front of him, because McLaren have, butchered the last 2 races. They had a problem with Senna last race, and this race they just really did not take advantage of the strategy.
Well, let's talk to some of our managers then after a gripping Mexican Grand Prix for so many reasons. We're going to start with Michael Gillespie and the Minardi team, who came through, of course, to win the pre-qualifying race. Michael, another sensational performance from you guys after a tough start. Brundle making mistakes, but Martini solid and strong as ever to win the pre-qualifier.
Yeah, really good showing from Martini. He showed the tenacity and the drive to bring the car home, and a good race from Brundle as well. Shame about his mistake, and I knew he could recover from it, and he did, thankfully, albeit in just 6th place. So a good solid weekend for us. I'll bring out the tequila, I guess.
And it's good to see the Minardis both managing to bring their cars home to the finish as well. The car is reliable. And it continues to race strong. What are if there are any changes? Is there anything that you're going to do ahead of France to make things a little bit easier for you?
Just a combination of everything. We've got a good package overall still, but there's always room for improvement, no matter what. So we'll just try a bit of everything really, and see how it goes really, and just keep. Hopefully, long may it continue.
Congratulations. Good performance today for Minardi, Michael. Great job in the pre-qualifier. Well done. Let's grab a word with the team boss at Porsche. At last, we can talk about something positive with our Porsche manager, Scott Woodward. Scott, at long last, Paul Warwick and the Porsche team able to get into the Grand Prix as they have deserved to from the start, and actually mighty competitive in the race considering the raw one-lap pace of the car still.
Yeah, we were pleased with the progress that we made today. I think that certainly it was disappointing that Alan went out early, but these things happen. He just got caught up in an incident, and there was no contact at all. He just got caught up in Giacomelli's spin, so I wouldn't put it Giacomelli's fault. It's just a victim of circumstance. But Paul was superb today. He picked up 4th, which was good enough for us to get in the top 3, which I think, given all the bad luck we had recently, we certainly felt that we deserved. Given the car had pace, we just needed a bit more luck and a bit more reliability. We managed to get it, and then we managed to run as high at one point as about 11th or 12th. And I think the contact with Nannini possibly lost Paul some of his momentum, because the next couple of laps he dropped down to about 16th or 17th place, which is unfortunate. And so I'm hoping, truthfully, that something is done with Alessandro, because there was a bit of a mistake on Paul's part, granted, but at the same time, it looked as though Nannini got a bit impatient, but we'll get onto that later. But yeah, just relieved that we not only managed to get through into the main race, but actually get a car to the finish and get inside the top 15, which I think was one thing we were looking to do anyway. And yeah, I think it's a nice step forward, and this is a long-term project for us. So to be able to get into our first Grand Prix and to actually have a car to finish it, that's another milestone we can tick off, and I guess points is the next one to look forward to in a few races' time.
And of course, the progress made in 6 races, nobody had any bones about how difficult it was going to be, but at the same time, it must be very nice indeed to see the progress coming. And I guess as we move back to Europe, for France, for Great Britain, for Germany, where the horsepower is going to come in very handy, it looks like the package is definitely starting to go in the right direction.
It is. I think everyone has to be obviously mindful, I'm sure everyone is that, but power is nothing without reliability. So it's all well and good having a very powerful engine, but if you can't actually use it to get to the end of the race, then it doesn't really count for much. So I think we have to keep on the path that we have, which is to keep our focus fairly equal on, if we're increasing power, we have to increase reliability with it, and we have to make sure that there is a fine balance between the two, because it's the age-old saying: if you want to finish first, you have to finish, and it's taken us 6 races to get to this point. So we need to make sure we keep this going and make sure we have a reliable car first and foremost, because we've seen it. Anything can happen with anyone, and drivers can drop out, and top drivers can have issues. And I think for us, this year was always going to be a learning experience and a development process to get us off the ground, to see how we could progress for 91, 92. And there was no one under any illusions that we were going to go into this as one of the top dogs. I mean, Porsche might be one of the biggest, sports car companies in the world, but they're not, and they might have had so much success at Le Mans and other places in GT and sports car racing. But at the same time, they're no fools to think that they're going to jump straight in as a top manufacturer and go and dominate. We've got to work as hard as anyone else, and we've got to make sure that by the end of the season we're in a good enough position to go into 1991, where I think we can start to hopefully make some further progress. And I think for us, the aim next year is probably going to be to become a more regular car in the World Championship races, and hopefully become a regular one so that we don't have to pre-qualify. But at the moment, we just take each race that comes. We've had a good day today, all things considered, and yeah, we can head back to Europe with some smiles on our faces and a plan to hopefully tackle the next few races with some more developments, and hopefully to make some more progress. And I think the next target for us, I think, is not only getting back into another Grand Prix, main Grand Prix, but I think our next target now is to get ourselves not only on the podium, because we haven't had a podium in the Go Bobby race yet, even though we've been in the top 3 teams. But I think also we need to look at getting ourselves at least one Go Bobby Cup race win before the end of the season. But we've got a long way to go, so we'll just keep working hard and see where we end up. But yeah, happy and relieved.
Fantastic, great performance, Scott, and a great result for the Porsche team. Well done, good job. Let's grab a word with Ryan Ferris, team boss at Lotus. It's been an interesting one at Mexico for you guys, but the pace that we saw in the earlier races, it just wasn't there. Derek Warwick is currently second in the Drivers' Championship, and it was almost as if the Lotus just didn't show up today. What can you explain it?
Definitely a disappointment would be an understatement. But we kind of had some idea that today was going to be a struggle. It's a bit of a horsepower circuit, especially with the long start-finish straight. And against the Honda engines, the Renault engine hasn't quite got the oomph that it needs in certain places. So going into France with the Mistral straight at Paul Ricard, it could be a tough weekend as well. But yeah, I think Warwick was a bit unlucky. I think there was a chance there that he could have broke back into the points. And as for Donnelly, got to have a bit of a debrief with him, to be honest. Finishing the last car circulating on the track is not the sort of thing that we're aiming for. And he's only so far achieved 1 points finish this season.
The difficulty as well, I guess, that you guys have got is that coming into this race, you were second in the Constructors' Championship, and now you're fourth. So it must be a very difficult pill to swallow when you consider that the competitive pace has seen you slump 2 places in the World Championship.
Yeah, it is somewhat difficult. I mean, we did come into this season not expecting to be as good as we have been, but now we have been as good as we have been. It is definitely a bit disappointing that reality is starting to kick back in again.
Okay, well, we'll review the situation, I'm sure, in France, and hopefully the yellow cars will once again be towards the front. Thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you. Let's grab a word with Topher Smith. A massive sigh of relief at Williams. Difficult start to the season, but a podium at last. It could so nearly have been a victory for Thierry Boutsen as well, but that's definitely got to be a massive relief for the team.
Well, it was a bit of a tale of 2 halves for that race, really. We were disappointed when Thierry dropped out of the lead early on. But after that, Ricciardo just got his head down, put in the best drive that he could, and he came away with a well-deserved 2nd place, and it's a fantastic result for the team. We've had a lot of disappointments recently with a lot of retirements. Our reliability hasn't been the best on the grids, but we've always had the speed. And I knew that if we were able to get at least 1 car to the finish, we could come away with a strong result. And 2nd place, I think, is just what we need right now.
And of course, that now puts you guys back into 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. You leapfrog back past Leighton House. Still a bit of work to do to catch Brabham, but it's definitely... I think you actually passed Brabham in the championship after the difficulty for Hakkinen, so you guys are back in contention. A chance to move forward. You had a nice press statement, I feel, as well, to make. I suppose you should probably drop the bombshell on us. What is it that we're supposed to be waiting for from you?
Well, the press release has now gone out, and I can make this official. I will be leaving the Cannon Williams team at the end of the season.
Oh, right. Okay, so obviously that means that another manager may well be interested in taking the position as team manager at Williams. What's the main position? What's the main reason for doing so? Is there another project on the horizon? Are you heading to sports cars? What is it that you're looking at?
Well, there's been frustration on both sides. There's been frustration on my part and also on the part of the team. We felt like we haven't really gotten the results that we thought we could at the start of the season. We were expecting to have at least 1 victory by this point in the season. But the reliability has let us down a lot, and after discussing with the management about how we're going to bring the team forward, we couldn't really reach any sort of agreement. And around about the same time, I was approached by another party for taking over a team in 1991. I have finalised a deal for that for next season, but I'm not willing to announce any details on that just yet. But yeah, it's just a simple fact that we didn't really achieve the results that we wanted to as a team at Williams. and I felt as though it was best if I moved on from the team and allow someone else to come in with a new, fresh perspective, and hopefully bring Cannon and Williams back to the front again where they belong.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's a big bombshell to drop with us. Thanks, Topher. We will catch up with you in France.
Thank you.
So, there is just one more man to speak to at the end of a gripping Grand Prix, and that is team boss Sam Hall, Tyrrell race team manager. And I have to say, it's a much better scenario that you're in, because this time a win wasn't handed to you on a plate. You guys really had to fight for it, so this one must feel very satisfying.
Yeah, this one is very satisfying, especially because of the damage that Jean picked up while he was 27 seconds in the lead, dropped down to 5th, and we thought it was game over. We thought if we can get a podium here, brilliant. But he ended up just coming through and winning by 11 seconds. I mean, what a performance from him. You can't speak highly enough. We have had a word with Ricard in the other car, and we will be switching him out for our reserve driver, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, as of the French Grand Prix. It might just be a one-off just to evaluate how Frentzen does in the car, but we're going to be making that change ahead of the next race. But yeah, French driver wins the last 2 races, and what race is next? French Grand Prix.
Grand Prix, absolutely.
It writes itself, surely.
I mean, you guys are obviously riding the crest of a wave. You found a fantastic new star. What is going to be the next port of call in terms of, heading to the next part of the season? You obviously want to keep this bandwagon rolling. Is the change of driver for Frentzen part of the bid to maybe start mounting a title attack alongside Alesi? Did you feel that there was an impetus to have 2 cars towards the front rather than 1?
Yeah, it is mainly that. We feel so because obviously there's no rule. We've discovered today the benefits of the lack of a rule for forcing lapped cars to pull out of the way, and managed to use Ricard slightly tactfully to almost balk Alain Prost coming out of the final corner to get Jean up a position into 4th and get the ball moving. But I mean, no one likes racing like that. It's not exactly how we want to race, but we needed to do it, and we did do it. It's within the rules. I must say, I think PK and Senna, through their retirements, have got slightly lucky not having... I wait to see what the stewards do, really, with them. But yeah, I mean, Alain's got to be considered one of the lead title protagonists. And Berger, somehow, I feel gutted for Brabham. I mean, myself and you and Gail have a long-standing banter-filled rivalry, I think is fair to say. But I was gutted that he couldn't join us up on the podium. I really thought Mika Hakkinen deserved a podium after his drive today. And Williams, Boutsen was giving us a great race and obviously pulled out as well. But this is how it works. It's heartbreaking, and then we were on the other side and on the crest of the wave at the moment.
Fair enough. Well, it's a brilliant performance, a great victory, and we wish you all the best for the French Grand Prix. Who knows? A 3rd one in a row could happen. Well, Will Knight, what a fantastic day it's been in Mexico City. A brilliant Grand Prix, and we've got a real title fight on our hands now as Alesi is slowly chipping away at Berger's advantage, but the Austrian just keeps getting lucky, whereas the big guns, Senna and Prost, really dropped the ball today.
Well, you say the big ones, but realistically, I think that Prost and Senna are both well and truly out of this championship race. I went into this season thinking that they would be the top 2 to beat once again. And, well, Prost, up until this race, was, I believe, 22nd in the championship up until now. So, finally, he's got some points on the board, but Senna retiring once again, and even if he didn't retire, he would have most likely been out of the top 10. So I think that we're now seeing a new dawn in Formula 1, and the ones to look out for are Gerhard Berger and Jean Alesi in this coming season.
Could be a fascinating run through the title fight. Thank you very much for joining me on commentary, Will Knight, and we look forward to seeing how you and the Reynard team get on next time out at Paul Ricard. Thank you for your help.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope everyone enjoyed the race as much as I do.
So, we now have a thrilling title encounter. The run of different winners is finally broken as Jean Alesi wins his second race in a row, but it's looking tight at the top as the teams are starting to close in with each other in terms of the competitive nature of the sport. Can Gerhard Berger sustain his title lead, or is there going to be another big change at the top? The next Grand Prix is the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard. We're back next week to take you through that. I'm Jake Sanson. I hope you've enjoyed the action because there's plenty more to come as January continues.